Welcome in for a late night episode of the XFL Insider Podcast. I know we're all reeling from our intense week. I want to welcome Zach Keilman to the show. Zach, man, has this been as crazy for you as it has been for me and the other XFL cohorts?
Well, in the words of the talks about merger, it has been a 50-50 craziness because I would say I equally am twisting through many things through my mental space right now with this whole thing. Yeah, no, it's been a week. Exciting, very much still sorting through the weeds type of week. I mean, I could say so many other words, and there's a whole episode we're doing about this right now. So I, I imagine, like you're implying, it's probably very similar for you. So
Yes, sir.
definitely the same vibes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I did not think we would be having this conversation right now in September. It's still discussing year two for us in the XFL would be year three for you with the USFL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, this stuff seems a little premature, but what can we do except hold on and enjoy the ride, I guess. Uh, a lot of
Yeah,
different rumors, a lot of different stuff coming out. I mean, it's been a week, and I want to say first and foremost, what we talk about today on the show. This isn't this isn't what's happening. This is what we've gathered that's happening. This is information that's been released from sources of folks that say it's true. And we're
mm-hmm.
sticking to I feel like me and you both, I mean, we kind of talked before the show started. We're sticking to the most, I guess, basic rumors that we've heard because we've both heard different things that could also be applied to this situation that probably won't help any of the fans at home swim through this.
Right. I mean, looking for the most concrete stuff because I mean, again, talk pre-show type of discussions, regular for podcasting, but just for this one in particular, you know, I tell you I've heard things, but I don't feel 100% confident sharing them because I'm still trying to figure some stuff and make sure I'm not spewing anything that adds to any tension. And you're the same way. And I think that's the right way to go about it. The most concrete items from people that we have trusted, not only that, but have heard from them and many others backing up saying, yes, 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 I am all seeing the same thing. That's it. And then we can still speculate because I think that's a lot of people right now is, you see every day. You go on Facebook, you go on X, Twitter, whatever you call it. I mean, there's people throwing hypotheticals out there. There's people kind of trying to look at the angles of some of this reported pieces or material. And I don't blame you because there's a lot of questions, even with what's out there right now, that is even the most concrete of items to talk about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before we dwell into these conversations, I just want to highlight AJ McCarron has signed to the Cincinnati Bengals to their practice squad. Happy for him, but this wasn't too good of a sign for me personally.
Uh,
He was the face of this league, I felt, and many others felt the same. So hopefully he's taking an opportunity that he knows is going to turn into something concrete and real for his career. And I believe he is because I don't think he'd just be chasing a check at this point.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, either way, you know, first off, getting back to another potential shot in the NFL is always big. Doesn't matter, if you've been in there several years or not. If you are getting your first real, I think, look at a practice squad, that's great. I will tell you, it does hurt because if you see, I got a Rock the Dome shirt. That's my team. So like that was a
Gotcha.
vital piece. I did follow the Battlehawks on the side as my team, in XFL terms. So that one hurts for sure. Definitely a leader. Definitely a great, fantastic face, not only for the Battlehawks but for the XFL as kind of the one that's talking about the benefits of spring football and especially the XFL's brand of spring football and what they're doing for players. But no, it's good for him to get back there to a team. Funny enough, a team he used to play for.
Yep, yep.
And not only him, Reed Sinet getting signed too. I had to double check to make sure that this was still the case. But the Bengals do indeed have 4 quarterbacks on roster, 2 on practice squad, and apparently they had the room. Yes, they had to have a release made to get McCarron in, but they have the room to fill the practice squad. So yeah, Sinet and McCarron both representing the XFL on the Bengals.
Yeah, and then judging from what's happening there, somebody should get some looks. Not sure who, but at this point, I mean, we're not trying to get into NFL stuff, but Burrow does appear to be injured somewhat, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that's part of its insurance, because I mean, say, you never know. Like if you have to go to Jake Browning, then it'd be good to have 3 QBs, one you can elevate. McCarron to me probably gets the elevation if that were to happen. But, doesn't hurt if you have 2 extra slots. I don't blame you either. And that's the name of the game these days. But still, I mean, fantastic. Like celebrate these, as you know, we celebrate these moves across the podcast and across the community, across the you name it, because it's good for the leagues.
Yes,
It
sir.
shows that you're getting better film and content for players, and the leagues are looking at these players over there and saying, yeah, absolutely, I need to look at these guys. So I love it. I do love it. I know it hurts a little bit, but at the end of the day, it is a net positive. That's a good thumbs up from me.
Agreed. Now I want to share some comments that we have. Some people watching. We got the Predator couple. So they're big Houston Roughneck fans down there. I don't know if you're familiar with their fandom. They have customized Predator masks that
I think
I'm
I've
sure
seen
you've
them.
seen it by now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're really big on their Houston Roughnecks. So they said save the Houston Roughnecks. I mean, and speaking of that, they've actually started a petition to save the Houston Roughnecks, and that's why I wanted to review that quickly. I guess since we're there.
Oh yeah.
Where is it at? Here we go. So yeah, so they started a petition right here. I mean, it's legitimate, and there's already people that have signed it. We're looking at where's the signatures? 110 signatures so far. I think they started this morning or this afternoon. So
it's good traction. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good traction.
Just wanted to note that. I mean, we see you, Predator couple. You're doing what you can for your team, and I mean, just know at the end of the day, it's not all you. So doing what you can is appreciative, though.
Well, yeah, and you can make your. I would say even with them having discussions, right now, supposedly in Los Angeles is what's been going on. Still make your voice heard. I think that's a good example of that because, at the end of the day, yes, there's going to be consolidations with this merger, and that's one of the rumors going around is that what's the Houston name, and I know there's been talks of the Gamblers taking the Roughnecks name. I think that's why that petition's come up. And yeah, having your voice being in the crowd, I think that's going to be a common thing. We're going to see a lot of people put their stuff out in very passionate ways from both sides of these communities, and we've already seen that as you've seen on social. But yeah, this is going to continue. I'm fascinated to see what that happens. What do you think is the best methodology there? Like that petition's a good thing to use if you want to show interest in a brand. So I don't knock for that. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, personally, your biggest impact as a fan is probably going to be social media. I would say if your voice is loud enough and your fandom, and most of them are, it's like the Predator couple. I mean, they're a well-known couple or character amongst the XFL fans. That's going to be a big benefit for them if they can get some traction on social media. So this online petition should work well. I mean, it's legitimate. They're not causing an uproar. They're doing something that's, I mean, it's respectful and impactful at the same time. So I'm happy with that. I mean, I just kind of feel bad for people such as them because they're sitting here in La La Land like we are, waiting for something, wondering what's going on. I mean, it's a tough time right now. Guys in the comments, I see you shooting out questions. Try to save them towards the end, and I will ask Zach as many questions as he'll let us. I promise.
Hey, I'm up for them. But yeah, like there's still, I mean, geez, I'm looking at our little rundown here today. I mean, we got so much to break down between just you and I that I imagine this question inbox on the side here will fill up real fast. And we're already on it with just the Roughnecks Gamblers discussion for Houston.
Yeah, we haven't got into it yet. Yeah. So let's just dive onto it then. Let's talk about the merger, man. It's the big talk of the town. Axios dropped their article, I think Tuesday morning, and that's what began this roundabout of information. Axios is known to be pretty legitimate in what they're releasing, and they don't, there's not many false things said by them. When we started, I'm going to pull it up on the screen. When we started the rumor talk, it was talked about being a 50-50 split, combine the teams, 16 teams possibly, and the rest would kind of be worked out. But as we know, things change very quickly. I had Mike Mitchell on Tuesday, and we discussed this same topic for probably 2 hours. And he was very, very, very. He told me exactly what was going on from his end. Two football people came up with this idea and took it to the head honchos in charge, and then they took that to the USFL to have these talks or discussion in a basic sense. From the Axios article, they have 3 different sources listed, but there's not really a who or what or when. Right. But, from your opinion, do you feel like this article from the start is legitimate and accurate in what it's saying?
Oh, I have no doubt in my mind. Axios has been a consistent media player. They're back. Credit if you want to dig into the background, they're backed by Charter Communications, but even then, it's been a credible source for journalism for a while. It's referenced on multiple news outlets as a source for pieces. And I think what's even more telling, not even just the company, but one thing I do like is you're validating your sources. You have, in the beginning of this, 3 sources familiar with the situation. That means you have 3 different angles you went to, and you validated that this was a scoop that is legitimate with legs. There is no doubt in their mind, because something this big of nature, especially for the industry and the sports, you really do have to make it where it is accurate. And especially if you are trying to put something out that are big media players like a Fox Sports, a Fox Television, and Redbird Capital being a big, financial player in itself, you want to make darn sure that that is 100% with accuracy what you're saying. So, yeah, I never had a doubt about it. And then not to mention that when I found out about it, keep in mind, I am 3 hours difference of time zone on the West Coast now. So not only did I wake up to the Axios piece being the main outlet, but we're talking every major sports outlet and sports business outlet also verified and took this to 100% of serious degree. So this is very much, whatever length. I know it's advances the talks, but I fully believed it. Like I said, I'm not totally shocked about the talks of merger, but I think you and I have talked here. It's just how soon. That's the thing that gets me every time when I talk to people. This is so soon to feel like we're at this point, is my whole thought about this.
Yeah, it couldn't be any sooner. We had 1 year with the XFL, and now, boom, look what's happening.
Yeah, really. I really thought, I thought we'd at least have, I thought we'd be minimum 3 years out. And I'm talking as of the combined season 2 USFL, season 1 XFL, we'd have 3 years of them duking it out. And then the situation of, one behind the scenes talks and goes to a player behind there, and they talk to the other side of the league, has been discussed in various places now that, Redbird talks to the USFL. They start these discussions supposedly back in July. Here we are. I didn't think that would happen now. I would think if we're throwing a ballpark year, 2027, 2028, something happens with one being better than the other. They talk, the weaker one goes to the stronger party. Here, I have no idea. I'm just going, hey, they're looking at each other going, we're making similar items. Let's just chat and see what we get the best of both worlds out of right now.
Yeah. Do you feel like, no, this is a big thing for me. Do you feel like this has been a real talk since July, or has it been just a conversation? Have they really been planning this out since that date, or are we looking at, they're basically, we talked about it, but we didn't plan it. There's a difference there in my mind. So
there would be. Yeah. Sorry if I interrupt. I don't.
You're okay. Go ahead. No problem.
But for this, for the scale you have to do this, and keep in mind all the moving pieces that have to take place to get this involved. Not to mention that Axios in particular, again, if we're going to reference the original scoop, they're talking that this thing is almost completely done, is how they feel, where sources are saying we could see this within the week. Now, granted, we didn't see it this week. I mean, yeah, Saturday, it's Saturday right now, but that doesn't mean it can't be done by the end of the month or early October. So I would think with the amount of different assets and discussions of how you have to rearrange this and get things moving, especially now we're moving into October. This is starting to get into the months where it's like, all right, off season's kind of done. We really need to hit the ground running even harder than before on what are we doing about tickets? What are we doing about player signings? Especially if you're talking about players, we need to keep the union involved and get their role in this moving in terms of the USFL side of the union. Because I imagine in a merger, and that's kind of been the point being talked, is the USFLPA will have a say in this because they represent half of this whole thing and are probably going to represent more after this thing is said and done. So yeah, I am on the side that I believe they have been talking serious for 2 months. Okay. Because the amount of legwork that would need to be done, to me, would take 2+ months to do if they are this close. So that's where I'm leaning on.
Understood.
But that's more speculative. I just think that, you could in theory say, yeah, let's get started in August. I just feel like if you're that close, it would take a little bit more serious time to get ball rolling and to have things done like that. So I'm on the serious camp. 2+ months they've been seriously discussing this.
See, that seems a lot more realistic to me also, just because we're talking big companies, a lot of investment money, a lot of investments in general in terms of both XFL and USFL. This is a big deal. And I think when people talk about it, they don't understand how big a deal it is in terms of the partnerships, the sharing, the working things out. Everything sounds big and easy until you're working with two multi-million-dollar companies or maybe even, billion altogether. Who knows?
Right. Well, definitely multi-billion on both sides.
Gotcha.
Without a doubt. Because Redbird's multi-billion valued and Fox is definitely multi-billion valued. But yeah, not only those two, if we're talking some of the reports of how OTA over-the-air broadcasts are the focus, you have to talk to NBC or NBC Universal or NBC Sports, their department there, because that's going to be a valuable player. You have to keep them, the third party, on the same piece. That to me adds more credence that this has been 2 months of serious discussion, because NBC is going into its third year of agreement with the USFL. Yahoo Sports originally reported when the first broadcast deal was agreed upon that it had been rumored to be a 3-year deal. So this would be the crucial year 3 of the deal. And generally, if you aren't merging, what I originally had thought about was in television, that is my background, by the way, is you usually, in terms of media rights and rights agreements, start the ball rolling before the last year of your contract.
Understood.
So if you're in these merger discussions, you need to have NBC somewhat knowing what's going on, because otherwise you would have spent that time talking to NBC the last 2 months going, hey, are we wanting to re-up? What do you feel about this? Are we just going to roll into next year and kind of try again at the end of the season, which would be a little risky in terms of TV? So that's where, because that was my original talks of the future in one of our USFL podcast episode post the championship, was watch for these NBC Fox discussions to happen. And now that we've got this merger news, my guess is that got kind of folded in with the merger discussion, because NBC's the third big party in the room and they're the independent party in this whole thing. They're more at the table, but they're more kind of listening to the two other sides break things down. And then when they get to a point, they look at them and go, do you agree with this? And go, I'm still on board. And then they go back and talk again. That's how I feel. So, and it would make sense for TV to be like that.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal, especially if you're doing only NBC, which is, you're removing USA, moving FS1, it's a big deal to talk about rights on just the big number one most watched channel, by the way, in the country, NBC as well.
In terms of TV implications, I mean, what else can you share on your end that will change for sure with this merger? You know, not the possibility, but what will change?
Well, I mean, what's really going to change is your access to the games itself. We've heard it on both sides of our equations. You know very well. I know very well. The big over the air number is what seems to be the most prominent to get the ratings up, and it is the one that I think if you're looking to get the best numbers for advertisers, which is a big deal for this I would imagine merger, as well as the best for investors' eyes and the best for folks that are trying to see if this is a legitimate avenue for a sports brand to grow. That's what you want to do. And it's just because it's free access. Cable numbers are not the same as they used to be. And I don't think you're ever going to see a XFL 2020 cable number like those were back 3 years ago ever again. Because of the fact that, let's be honest, two things I look at. One, TV's changed a lot. Cable numbers and cable habits have changed drastically in that 3-year span. But two, Vince McMahon was kind of a marketing genius in my eyes 3 years ago. And we're never going to see, I think, FS1 ever hit a 1 million viewership spring football game ever again. That kind of guy, I mean, that was a reality check in 2022 for me. And then when we hit in 2023 500K for its first game, I went, this is probably the best we're going to get, is this, coming out of a big sports broadcast event. That was NASCAR going into an event. So that was kind of a reality check. And then on the XFL side, you guys know, FX started hot, dwindled down as it went. They switched off. ESPN2 I actually thought was reasonable, but the magic number is that 1 million viewership number.
Understood.
And the only realistic way you can get it is really on the big 4 television stations. Even though Fox, I will say they'll need to look into things because they kind of slumped this year a lot more. ABC was consistently up there. NBC generally was consistently up there, even with minimal marketing, because again, they're a third party. Fox is there. I wonder how this will work with different marketing and people behind it, but that's what you got to aim for. And it's free. It's ease of access. So it's going to generate better numbers. It should. And it should hopefully allow for a better penetration to households for folks that want to watch this. It also can remove some of the negativity of, well, now I got to buy a package. Or as you guys, as XFL folks definitely had a laugh at, and USFL guys definitely were frustrated at, there's an exclusive Peacock game. You got to buy the Peacock package. Trust me, I heard it all. I've heard it all. And so that's the whole shebang of it. So, yeah, it should help with numbers. That's my thing. Make the numbers solid, push for 1 million per game. And then the final piece of the puzzle is, of course, not this coming season, but next, appease NBC. Because if you don't appease NBC, you might be down a partner, And also keep in mind, something else to watch for. It's a piece of the puzzle, but it'll probably be more affecting 2025. ABC's for sale and has been approached already. Disney's been approached by Allen Media Group and Nexstar Communications about buying these channels. I don't know how fully that'll affect things with the XFL USFL merger per se, but it is something to watch out for because the XFL side of this deal is with Disney. So if they sign away ABC, where does it go? Do they switch to ESPN? But they don't want to do that, even though ESPN is one of the top 10 most watched channels in the US. They want OTA numbers. It gets a little more convoluted, but there are a lot of I would say bow ties on this whole thing that might unravel or shift
Understood.
and change in the next 2 years. This year alone, though, big deal is make NBC happy and then keep things going and show that the combined numbers were worth this merger. OTA should help the numbers, though. Absolutely, is the final wraparound I have to give you.
Gotcha. We had a comment from Mike. Mike said millions of people have cut the cord since XFL 2.0, and that's the truth.
Wrong. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I use an antenna here. I live down in South Mississippi, and I mean, the digital antenna is great for my local games at Saints, anything else I want to watch. I get to, a few games a week So I mean, it's really great, and it's free. It costs $12, I think, initially. So
Yeah, I have one of them just like you. I have an HD antenna at my house, and it's similar deal. I think I paid like $15 for mine. You get, all the local stuff right away. And I think that's part of it. Part of it is, Fox and them, they look at this and go, well, again, these cable numbers keep cutting down. And, Mike G's here is absolutely right. In 3 years' time, you can look at how cable numbers and satellite numbers have declined. It is around, I believe it's sub 70 million people have cable television now. It used to peak at 110 million.
that's a big difference.
It has dropped, and it is kept to significantly drop because of changes in viewer habits. Even though, ironically, streaming services as a collective whole are more expensive or about the same as a cable package now, the freedom of use and I think ease of going in and out. So yeah, that cable habit affects how we view sports, and we definitely need over the air for a startup like this.
Agreed.
Absolutely. This isn't like MLS. This isn't like the 90s anymore where you can, well, if we get on a TV air, we're going to still have that massive like dual audienceship. No. One side of this whole coin's declining, and there are more cord cutters than before. Go where the cord cutters are at, which would be in some SKUs still the digital antenna guys or people like that can get the free access TV, which are growing a little bit. And then something I was seeing, because I know News Hub mentioned this a little bit, is that it's rumored that they might put all the replays exclusively on the exclusive streaming services post games played on OTA.
Gotcha.
Which that has been reported that way. I'm just listing it because I think that makes sense. Just get it in instant availability like that. Double up your use and say, hey, did you miss the game? Now we get money on our streaming service that way too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's basically what ESPN Plus was doing during the XFL season. That wasn't the best app though. Kind of hard to use.
Would be a bit of a change though, because you wouldn't be paying to watch it simulcast. You would have to watch on over the air, and then you only get the replay in this instance.
Understood.
Which I did buy ESPN Plus to use it to watch all the games. Easy for me.
Yep.
$8 a month, and I get to watch FX's broadcast instead of paying $73 a month for the cable package.
It's a big difference there,
it's a
man.
really good deal.
Yeah. Let's see. I had some comments. Brahma Babe. Is there a capability to include streaming numbers? I don't believe so yet, but I believe there's some kind of stuff in the works for that. But right now, no.
It's complicated. Is your issue with streaming numbers is that and I've read into this. I've tried asking around more and more since I've been in this industry, and some of it can be manipulated very easily. And some of the streamers, that's something if you read up or watch, any kind of inside depth kind of videos on this industry, especially streaming services, some of the streamers don't really want to report numbers. They like certain stats that seem more appealing. Like, the concrete, we had this many people watch this, which means either you clicked on it or you could also have watched the entire thing. It's like going on TikTok and you see like 3 seconds of video and it counts as a view. That's the type of number they're looking at, and they're going, yeah, that's good. It counts towards our stats. Because in reality, if we went like Nielsen style, which is, the average viewership, keep in mind when you look at Nielsen ratings, which are standard for TV, that's the average. That's not the total. So streaming numbers for the average would be affected and would probably be lower for a lot of items. So you could add them and you probably could dig, but I don't know if all of them want to. And it's also been talked about that they don't always contribute that significantly to the overall viewership numbers.
Understood.
So
makes sense.
Yeah, it's complicated, but there are things and reasons why they aren't reported.
Yeah, it's very complicated from what you said. That example, I mean, it's like, unless you start doing some streaming or something along yourself, it's kind of hard to understand what exactly that entails,
Right. I'll give you a great example of this, by the way. I don't know if any of your audience had watched Fan Control Football when it was going on. It was on Twitch specifically. And the social media manager who was also the XFLs for 2.0, Bailey Carlin. He came on and it said, wow, we had 1 million views on this video, and tried to compare it to a USFL broadcast from that year. And basically my question to him was, is that an average or is that a total? Because keep in mind, if we're talking about that data, and this is exactly why streamers are kind of iffy about this data, is averages generally are better looking than a total. Total is great if it is a true total, but averages have been kind of the standard for the broadcasters to use to show off to the advertisers and others on a program. So it is a big significant difference when you consider that. Because again, on Twitch, a view is me clicking on the video for a few seconds and I back out. That's the minimum I have to do. So there is more depths of a piece of data you have to dig into like that. Just a good example for those that are trying to, like, maybe let's talk football. That's the best way to look at it. You know, that's a football example in a way. You know, looks good on paper, isn't actually as good as the other thing on paper.
Understood. All right, let's hop back into the merger rumors again. We kind of got off. We started talking about TV, so I just wanted to hit that while we were on it. That way we could just go right through.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we left off at Axios. We got our first taste of this Tuesday morning with Axios. That afternoon, we had a lot of different stuff being released by like Sports Illustrated and anything else along those lines. I mean, they were just taking it and re-releasing. I had a conversation with Mike Tuesday evening. I mean, he told us what was going on, but nothing too shocking, nothing that we didn't already know from the articles, nothing that made people pissed off, most importantly. Sure. But come Wednesday, things started changing a little bit. And I've tried to piece this together as much as possible, okay? So bear with me, guys at home and those watching. If I'm getting something wrong, let me know. But I'm just piecing it together, all right? So what I remember Wednesday is James Larson came through and said, hey, hold up. I'm going to bring up the tweet. We're probably not looking at 16 teams, guys. And I remember seeing that tweet thinking, uh-oh, that's not good. Regarding the USFL XFL merger, it is likely that we do not see all 16 teams in action per source. So I'm like, oh, okay. Then hearing that organizations without venues currently secured are in hot water. Now, that was real big to me, of course, because I'm a Houston Roughnecks fan.
Right.
We know just because USFL has hubs that most of your teams or half of your teams don't have a home either. So that's pretty impactful for you guys. I mean, it's impactful for us, but for you guys, that's half your teams. That's something neither one of us as fans or media want to hear coming into it personally. I mean, I'm like, I was just shaking my head when I saw this. It was not a good time.
I think the 12 team to 10 team setup, or like saying it's, or just to more reference this in a way we're talking where it's not going to be all 16. You know, I think that was one of my thoughts about this, just like on the surface values. Mergers you generally see like any business. And I went through one during my earlier years in my television journey. You consolidate things, like some items just get lost or are they're just basically collateral damage. For this setup. So that does, and to me it does stink, because I know at some point you do have to eventually make those hard calls. You know, we're talking upwards, if we're talking the low end, like upwards of 6 teams here are going to get the axe in some way. You know, the hopeful more, and I want to say more realistic given other info we've seen, is 12, but still 4 teams there. That is, I mean, we're talking 25% of your combined 16 are going to, and maybe even more depending on what ITL was mentioning about new markets, and we'll dive
we're going to get on that after this.
Yeah, just a teaser bit. I don't want to dive too much because that's extra, but like, that's kind of rough. Like that part alone makes your mind spin, because what are these execs talking about right now in Los Angeles that are the key portions of data or key portions of visibility that make your market stand out and are valuable in this trade-off. You know, I do think, for example, we talked about this on our last USFL podcast episode, which that's dated now compared to this time of the week a little bit, but we discussed that having stadium rights agreements right now has to be the most valuable thing in these merger talks. And we're talking at the time, without, say, like Detroit being discussed, there's rumors New Orleans is still trying to discuss some stuff on the sides for the USFL. You know, there's at least guaranteed at this moment, I'm counting off the top of my head, it should be 9 that have stadiums with rights agreements. You know, the Vipers do not. There should be 7. I know Houston is in the final steps, but they still will have one, it sounds like, one way or another. So I'm counting 9. You know, 10 if you want to count Detroit, because it sounds like that one's on close to the doorsteps of being done too. They were just talking. But those have to be the most valuable, because I feel like in a merger here, you want to have available assets that aren't kind of up in the air. You do want to have things that are set in stone. Those rights agreements are kind of set in stone for some of these teams, if not all of them. I mean, hell, Memphis, they signed a 2-year extension, just before this was publicly released as a merger talk. You know, that's 2 extra years that they are committing to being in Memphis, Tennessee at the Liberty Bowl, which should be, by the way, renovated at that point. So you're playing in a brand new stadium. So that's just one example, you know, outside of everything else. St. Louis. I mean, Jesus, imagine if you don't have that locked down, a 30,000, an almost guaranteed 30K fandom that is locked down in the Midwest of a team that still feels like it wants to find the best way to stick the middle finger to the big man in New York City. That is the NFL. Like, that's value right there.
Agreed.
You know, that is valuable as an asset.
That is what makes the fans show. That's what gives you your energy. Those type of things is what sets you apart. Did you see that they redid some suites there in St. Louis?
Yes,
so
I
that's
did.
pretty cool. I mean, I thought that was interesting. I mean, they showed it off, had a nice little pictures and some write-ups about it. But when you read that and then you go see this news, you just don't really know what to say, because is that the Battlehawks anymore, really? Are they sharing that?
I would imagine that's one thing I would imagine you're sharing is like good brands. So yeah, it's like how we talked back when 3.0 was trying to finalize its cities and brands, you know, how even I was standing up, like even me standing up at arms going, if they remove the Battlehawks, I'm rioting or something like that, you know, or as we're even talking right now with this merger, but you know, 3.0 wise, like the Roughnecks, if they go to Houston and it's not the Roughnecks, I'm rioting, or stuff like that, you know. Valuable brands are brands that have, I think, a little more significant value to the fan you want to keep around. Like Houston, in terms of Roughnecks and the Gamblers, that's a tough one, you know, because again, I see this talk, but like, especially like Battlehawks. Yes, that's a big one. DC, I know big one. I would say big one, you know. Birmingham, yes, there were talks about some issues with the attendance, but it is the one that kind of kicked things off, and it's a 2-time championship team now, you know, so those are valuable, you know, and again, that's part of the discussion, you know, what has the most value to us, you know, and not to mention, if we're talking about in a collective group, a more focused unit of trying to appease to outside investors to eventually sell these teams, which is the end goal that's been for both of these leagues at some point. What is the most valuable assets in terms of IP that make you go to investor and say, hey, you're getting a bang for your buck? Like my first team I would think you'd want to try and sell is in St. Louis, Missouri, because you're going, look, if you buy this team right now, you are right now averaging 30,000 fans a game.
Winning.
You just need to pull the legs and be part of us and buy up, and we'll build the value for you. Like MLS, if you look into MLS valuation, there's a good chunk. I believe it's the majority of MLS teams lose money in terms of overall sales, but they get money on the TV revenue to make things back. And the bigger kicker, the value of the IP is what brings in these investors to buy these teams. That's what you're wanting to do, is build the value of these IPs. So this merger is big in the sense of, I need to pick the most valuable stuff that will make an investor want to say, where do I sign the check?
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And honestly, I knew that's what was going on with the USFL. That's what they were attempting, at least.
Right.
But the XFL, they didn't really come out and say that, but I mean, it makes sense from a business perspective. What are you doing? You're building your brand to sell it off, to bring more people in, to bring more into the table, to make a bigger thing.
Right. And you also take off when someone buys your brand or your team that you are. Remember, these are self-financed through a league. It's still a one entity ownership.
Yep.
So I sell it to someone else. A bunch of expenses go to that guy. And in theory, we have an agreement. You're going to run this as a reputable owner and a reputable businessman that'll make either an LLC or some sort of company conglomerate that runs this newfound team, that runs as its own entity, but is associated and is a member of a league. And we get to recoup that cost that we don't have to pay for anymore. Player salaries, they go towards you. You just have to handle the salaries well, follow our league rules and regulations. We get to get a little more freed up on our end to do our jobs better as a league itself. We're not focused as much on some aspects of, well, now I got to run this team too. Well, now I can focus on building value for you while you focus on running your organization and bringing in your best in terms of community engagement and value towards the league's brand back. So that's what's, at the end of the day, that's what you're looking to do when you sell these. And so, the merger will come first, valued IP, then hopefully someone buys one of these right away and starts the snowball of, well, hey, if he's doing great, I bet I can get in on this action and do it like that. I mean, Bobby Wagner, remember, he was talking about, like, he wants to own a sports team. He actually said that recently, this past week. He stated once again, I want to own a sports team in my life. That's the type of person you appeal. It should be affordable to where it's not NFL bonkers numbers or even, say, top 5 valuation, but it should be enough to where it's probably big enough to get someone like him to get a few investors together, buy something, and then run this. And then again, that opens the door. Well, if they're running this and they're saying good things, well, hey guys, I got 11 other teams for you right here. And we got other brands for you right over here in our catalog of trademarks. But that's what the hope is. The merger brings more value, and then you get that access hopefully to sell, and that access to hopefully get more TV dollars more directly put in, because not only are you the only competition, but you put the most valuable pieces of each puzzle together to try and grow that value and grow that equity to it.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we talked about when we started. The only thing to me is who's deciding, who's making these decisions. Right. Like, how are they deciding? What factors are we looking at? Ticket sales? Are we looking at fan attendance? Are we looking at TV numbers? Are we looking at championships? I mean, that's right. My biggest wonder right now is, how is that being decided?
Yeah, that is a complicated issue, because I could give you TV. I mean, yeah, you could go for fan attendance right out of the gate. Now, I think that'd be like I don't mean to sound it like this, but it would be the simpleton's answer.
Agreed.
To a merger. Because if we're talking attendance, well, yeah, I'll just pick, it'll probably be a little more XFL heavy. You'll get probably all the hubs. Canton would actually be up in the air, given that, because it would be a neutral hub that got attendance. So we can't gauge what happens if it's a dedicated Ohio brand, So, like, attendance is totally one factor. I think TV is a big one, and this is one we don't have as much as regular folks and the execs have. Is, well, not only do we have Nielsen ratings, but they also have, like, by demographic, not by demographic, but like by city ratings too, or like by metro rating. In terms of like Nielsen combined areas. Like, say you have a broadcast, okay, well, which area of the country watched it the most? And then you can like keep breaking it down. And then you can see which games were consistently winners and consistently losers, and keep going like that. Now, I think you'll see like in that regard, I do believe, like, for example, having a team in a home market, that does enhance it a little bit. So you could argue some XFL brands, I think the XFL gets a little bit of an edge for its branding in terms of that.
Yep.
Whereas, like, you think, like, the Gamblers, for example, and that's one argument I think for some with that Roughnecks Gamblers argument as well. The Gamblers brand wasn't in Houston, and Houston games didn't really hit the spot in the ratings as much. The Breakers, I think, were solid, but they weren't big. The ones that actually are big, if we're talking like that were non-hub teams, for example, were the Generals. Generals were in prime time a lot, but think about that. That's New York, New Jersey. It's the largest TV market in the country. So, like, if we want to play this whole combined game, well, yeah, New Jersey's not a stadium team, but it's the biggest TV market in the country and was getting decent ratings as a hub market. So you can't remove that out of the equation, because I don't want to sacrifice TV ratings, because I want to hit that million viewership mark. So if New Jersey helps that, wouldn't I want to consider New Jersey?
Yep.
Even if it's the 6 hubs, like, hey, they're bringing in the New York market and people like that brand. And it's a famous USFL brand, whether it is, of course, for infamous ownership in the past or not. It's one of the most synonymous brands from back in the day for that reason and for the star power behind it. So, like, that's just so much of the equation, and some of the, like I said, some of the data we don't have. Like, we don't have that ratings data per city. That's very insider industry stuff that the common guy doesn't really get access to unless you, for some reason, know those people you can get, or you hear it kind of squeezed out once in a while in, like, a local market piece. Like, I know, I think it was like one of the XFL games last year did really decent in Milwaukee. That was like a random article that Milwaukee was a solid market for like 1 or 2 games. I was like, great, I'm glad someone knows that, because I don't know where you found it. I mean, it was good he found it. I just wish everyone could find it so we could talk about it like that. But that's the thing. It's so hard to find. There's no, like, concrete place anymore to just find, like, per city. There used to be, Showbuzz Daily, but even Showbuzz Daily, that's gone now. You can't go to Showbuzz Daily. They stopped updating it because it's getting harder and harder to do updates, and you also have to pay for those Nielsen ratings.
Makes sense.
They aren't free. Nielsen has to get money from people for that.
I thought it was just a fancy name.
No, Nielsen's a company. Yeah, you have to pay for those ratings. They are not free.
Interesting. All right, they got more comments coming in, guys. I see you in the comments. I promised I'll get your opinions out, but I just want to stick to what we're doing. I don't want to get far fetched off the topics. All right, so I see you though. We'll get back to you. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the last piece we talked about was the James Larson released. I mean, we're looking at probably not 16 teams. He really didn't say a number. He didn't say anything else except probably not 16 teams, and the cities without venues are in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, so we took that, going through our day, and then Mike Mitchell went on the Marcast. And this is where things got choppy, all right, because this is where, Mike got some more information and presented that information. And then once we put that out to the social media world, I mean, it took off. I mean, it took off fast. During the show, I was watching their Facebook groups all about XFL blowing up with this. And I'm going to put the tweet up.
See what we got.
So, per Mike Mitchell, live, blah, 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 blah. In terms of teams that will survive in an XFL 2023 and USFL merger. Quotes, 10 teams, April start. Stallions, Memphis, Ohio-based team, Gamblers on the USFL side. No Roughnecks and Vipers on the XFL side. This is the one that tripped people out the most. When we got to this point in time of information, this is when the freak out mode began. I know about 80% of what I viewed on social media was positive regarding this merge. We were all kind of wondering what the hell's going on. But there wasn't anything that, oh shit, we're going to lose our team. Well, once this hit the market, things changed completely. And this is when things started going crazy, like I said. I mean, this is where people really started looking and saying, uh-oh, this is real. And like I said, I just present this because this is information Mike heard, and I trust Mike as a source. All right. So if he's telling us this, I trust Mike personally. It's just the way I feel about it. Now,
sure.
That doesn't mean that it isn't old information that has changed, information that was talked about 2 months ago. I mean, we really don't know what the information entailed. So this was the next piece, as I was saying, in our adventure of rumors. And so let's just hash this out a little bit. What do you think about this piece specifically?
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird looking back like 4 days now, because that tweet was the 20th, but because things have even, like I said, I know I've already hinted at the 12 portion seeming more realistic in my eyes now than the 10, but looking back now, I think you're right. Like, the main thing you get from that is, oh crap, we really have to talk about who might get the axe, and we're going to have to talk, and maybe is said to be put on the bench or to be putting softly. That's the best I've got. I think what it reaffirmed for me was that, again, it's like I'm a broken record with this, because I know these folks in here, I know you guys are chatting on the comments, but it reaffirmed that the Houston aspect is going to be trickier than people thought.
For sure.
And I think the second piece that wasn't as talked about, because I thought the Houston one took a lot of the air out of the room in that portion of that tweet, is that Canton gets reaffirmed as a market that is indeed going to have its dedicated team to it. And that's been reiterated even with new reports since then.
Yep.
And I'm glad, because I mean, that was a big deal, was, the USFL made such a commitment to the Hall of Fame, and the Hall of Fame every step of the way has loved the USFL for what it has done, because they're building, for those that maybe don't know in this podcast or that haven't been following the USFL as much, the Hall of Fame has been building basically an entertainment complex, like a vacation destination. It's not just a museum you are going to. We're talking water park, we're talking restaurant venues and the like. Ferris wheels being put up there as well. Like, this is supposed to be a place to go in the summer for diehard football fans now. Not just I haven't been in forever, And so the USFL is part of that package. So they're vital. Like, they look at them as very vital to this whole thing. And I'm glad that was the main thing I took away besides the Houston portion, was I'm glad that it's reaffirming that Canton gets a say in this deal and is not the odd man out because it was a hub. That they were like, look, they were a dedicated fan base with no brand associated to that community, and they still came out consistently enough to where they deserve to have a say. That to me was the main thing I took away, outside of, all the Houston discussion that came out of that. Or the 10 teams.
Yeah. I mean, me being an XFL guy, I saw no Roughnecks and freak out and ensued.
Right. When I see the stuff in the background, I mean, you got Walker, you got Harris there,
Yeah.
And that's that, like, that day definitely, like I said, and we see it in the comments, it's a big talking point, it's a big talking point.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably, when you look at that, you say the Vipers. Okay, we can reason with the Vipers. Failed facility. I mean, the fans were there as much as they could be, but it just wasn't right. And we all know that. Unfortunate for their brand and franchise there with the Vipers, but I mean, it is what it is. But once you say no Roughnecks, it's tough. And you're already catching the backlash of these fans. I mean, it hasn't, nothing's even happened yet, and we're already told, "Hey, I'm swearing off this damn league if y'all do that." I'm gonna. I mean, we've had somebody start a petition, like I said. I mean, they love their team.
It's a serious portion. Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to hit that part of it, and before we go forward, I'm trying to piece this together as much as I can, because it's just a big crazy mess.
I think you're doing it right, because look, I could, like, to me, this show, and I've been on, Player 54 just 2 days ago, or, well, it was 2 days ago, but it's released today as we're talking. And, I did my own show. Like, there's a reason why you're doing this. I get it. And I think it's a great way to do it, because it has been that quick.
Yeah.
You've had less than a week. It has been that quick how things have morphed.
Yep.
So, I'd love to. Yeah, let's see the next piece of the puzzle again. Let's go in.
We're going to head to the next piece, I guess. And this piece came from, what was it? It was the Inside the League.
Oh, and this is the most recent big one here.
And this is our last biggest piece. What did I do with it? Let me find it. I'm sorry. Here it is. So in this is where we get our 12-team split. All right. In this article, they're stating that we're looking at. Oh, I'm sorry. This one makes me breathe hard. We're looking at 6 hubs, and we're splitting teams between those hubs.
I heard the pitchfork slide out of their shears their side, and shing, and away we go.
So 12 teams would survive according to this article, with each league contributing 6. USFL coaches' respective statuses seem less certain than those in the XFL due to their contracts because they had 1-year deals. Mm-hmm. And then the new league is going to have more of an XFL feel to it, according to this. They said some other things, talking about the 200 roster spots that wouldn't be available anymore, right, as well as the countless jobs that'll be lost. And that's obvious. I mean, that's a real thing that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, alone with the 12, I mean, think about it. You're going to lose easily like it says, 200 roster spots. Plus, keep in mind coaching staff as well. So mass casualties, sadly, will be coming in some regard there.
Shots fired for sure.
Yeah.
Now this came from, what's the guy's name that does this, man? Is it Neil Stratton? Is that the one that does?
Yes.
I think it is. I didn't want to say the wrong name, but I think that's what it is. And this actually came from a newsletter they do. It's an email newsletter they send out. And as soon as this hit their inbox, I mean, you saw it online immediately. This is where our last journey on the rumor mill has gone to. We haven't went anywhere further than this. And this doesn't take things too much further than what we already knew, except the splitting of the hubs. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we stand as of this moment. We're looking at, according to this, 12 teams, 6 hubs, and we go from there.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
The hub portion is certainly what everyone is talking about. This is nothing new for me, by the way. Obviously, I'm the USFL side of this equation here. I've been used to this. That being said, no matter where you go, saying hub anymore is gonna make someone wanna bring out a torch and say, "Why are you doing this?" Or I am going to do something, and I'm going to be angry about it because it is, we have come accustomed that I think fans want their cake and want to eat it too. Where we want the whole NFL experience and the whole football experience. I need to be in stadium. I need to see on TV that there is a person in a seat somewhere, and that this can't be empty. And I will say that part of this whole thing is, I don't think, this is a bit speculative to me, and it's something that I've been trying to figure out, because 6 hubs, yes, but that doesn't seem like the full story. I'm just going to put that in my own eyes, because if they do this, I don't know if that's going to be the best way to go about it. Because of the fact that when the XFL did their setup, one thing they were originally going to try and do was the USFL style, and they saw it, and they saw the reaction, and they said, hell no, and they did their model in Arlington where they fly everywhere and come back. And that's where I'm getting the sense where I'm like, I don't think this is the whole story with that hub setup. Yes, I can say I believe that they might fly out of 6 places, but and this is whole speculation here, so anyone listening, this is my thought on this, but I'm almost wondering if there are going to be efforts to take some teams to a market outside of a hub still. If we're thinking true 50-50, that would be the other 50 equation, the XFL side of this idea, where it's like, oh, we liked your idea where you have more places to have a concrete community engagement in a hub, but the USFL being speaking of the XFL, but we did like how you flew out and we're still playing there. Thus, there is that connection piece. That's all hypothetical, and to me is what is justifying me saying I don't think this is the end all be all. Because again, half of this side of the industry, unless they feel like they completely failed with that Arlington setup, that's my hypothesis, was if they were to feel that wasn't the end all be all financially, I don't think that's it. I don't think it's just 6 hubs and we see 6 teams not have a home again. I'm getting that vibe. That's not concrete news I've gotten. That's just, I think there's more to that story. This is all the info that Stratton has gotten so far. That's not saying that everything has been given in the entire pie when he was let go into that info. I believe his stuff because he is an industry insider. He has been around the ring. He has dealt with those in the scouting in the scouting for NFL and scouting in general, and he's been in touch and connected with this spring football scene like others since especially with the XFL side of this, by the way, keep in mind, really since the new and improved 3.0 version settled in and started advertising. So I have full faith that this is a piece that's real, but I definitely would say this can't be the whole story.
Understood.
I've seen a lot of people. I've seen some folks like Facebook groups you and I talk about that are indeed losing their mind if this is 6, and that's where I'm hitting the pause button, going, we really do need to pause that part, because either more context has to be laid out as to the reasoning, or as I believe more heavily, there is more context that will not just be 2 teams per city. It's got to be more than that. I really do fully believe it's more than that.
Understood. So this source here, you trust. I mean, personally, I don't know much about him or his product. So asking you as another podcaster, I mean, alternative sports media personality, this information here you feel is valid.
I think it is quite a valid report. Mainly, again, we're talking just what Inside the League is. If you want to look them up, InsideTheLeague.com. But this is a regular source that talks to industry professionals in the scene in terms of scouting, in terms of different various leagues. Remember, this is a guy that's hosted multiple talks with XFL executives at this point and has that access.
Understood.
But has more than just that. I mean, this is a guy that's talked about the college scene, that is indeed in touch with the scouting department. If I'm recollecting here, and I'm going to have to double check myself here, I know for a fact that ITL has been involved as a scouting in scouting pieces before. So that's where I'm ingrained. I've
understood.
ITL does have that reach, or at least in terms of connections, should have those connections. But that's where I pause with especially the hub side of it, and I pause and say, he might have that bit, but he didn't have but to me, he didn't have the context of what does this all entail with the 6, because saying 6 on a surface is instantly going to hurt, I feel, the general growth you want. So that's where I hit the pause. I think there's 6, but to me, he doesn't to me have every piece of that puzzle, or they won't let him share that, or it wasn't given everything about it. Maybe because there's some stuff that they're still trying to work out, is my thing. Again, fully speculative. I have to put that out there. I'm just kind of looking through all this and kind of theorizing what I'm seeing. But Neil Stratton is a guy that does have connections, and you could say probably got some reasonable connections to talk about these pieces in his newsletter.
Yeah, I'll include his website in the show notes and stuff. So if you guys want to check his stuff out more, from talking with people like you, I've gathered that most of the things that he releases are accurate. Mm-hmm. Most to a T. I mean, the 2 or 3 guys that I talked to about this, they have nothing to do with media or podcasting, they actually get the emails. And so that's what, I asked him, hey, is this legit? Is this just a spoof thing? Is this like, no, it's real. And this guy really, really takes the professional sense into doing what he's doing. So just wanted to talk with you about that on air.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to his website right now, and this is this is more of a testimonial piece, but he has a scroller on his website kind of talking about himself in terms of Stratton. And it states Stratton has been an advisor to schools from the Big Ten, ACC, WAC, and many others. I missed part of it on the scroller, but if you go on the website, it is kind of explaining who Neil is and some of the pull he has and where he has gone to discuss his own portions of the industry. So, yeah, I mean, you and I have both kind of hit the nail on the head there. This guy does know his stuff. ITL is a place that if they drop info, most likely they are talking from a spot that they have gotten something and they know what they're talking about.
Understood. I mean, makes sense. I mean, to actually put this out, you have to be confident in your sources. You know this is going to hit home. So that's
a big deal. Especially for his side of the industry, it's a big deal. Keep in mind, he is a football industry person. So that hurts if you are dead wrong.
Yep.
Just
that's
keeping
exactly
that in all perspective too.
Yeah, that's my testaments about it as well. I mean, this is his image right here. And if he gets this wrong, I mean, that's a big deal. So
yeah,
he probably wouldn't have put this out if he was not confident in this being a truthful. So, I mean, it's interesting the way things have shaped and changed. And you can kind of see how when the rumors started, I guess, everything started shifting Wednesday. You can kind of see this kind of fits right there with what they were saying. With exception of, like you said, what are we missing here? Is there something we don't know?
Right, and we aren't going to get everything until they release everything. Like, you're going to get bits, like that's the deal. But something with this magnitude you aren't going to find an end all be all truth tell, unless you are very terrible at holding your secrets in place and keeping people in check. Which, I mean, not saying that hasn't happened. We've had both these leagues where something does slip out from time to time, but this is a different type of thing in its incomplete reality. I think, like I said, I do believe Neil got a lot. I think Neil got a lot of the key points. The context on the extra slides, for example, if we're talking like PowerPoint perspective, I think that's where we're waiting on. Like 6 hubs is like the title card. What are the bulletin points to that? I want the bulletin points. We're waiting on those because the title card isn't it. There's more to that than just saying 6 hubs for 2 teams each.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's no way that's all it is.
No, because I'm going to tell you right now, you're if this is the model. These XFL fans, I mean, you're going to lose a big portion. And I don't say that as what I like or what I don't. I say that as what I've gathered from this. And then before this, I mean, even when we start, like you said, we've talked about this in the past before, and it was not a good deal with the XFL fans.
No.
So,
and that's kind of where I'm sitting here going, you would have an uphill battle PR-wise to appease specifically to that one side. And especially if we're talking hubs, well, if some cities are lost because of hubs in the XFL, again, it opens a slippery slope because the word hub anymore over the last 2+ years has just become, I think, to the not only XFL, but I think to a good portion of the football populace, a negative football term. In terms of what it means for a viewership piece. Like, you lose the luxury of some viewership items. So,
and
I've learned the hard way from that. Like, I used to try and say, hey, well, you still get football, but like the more I talk with people, I'm like, I see what you're saying in terms of it. And I respect that point of view, and I leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm the same way as well. I always said I wasn't a fan of the hubs because of the fake fan noise. I mean, that's really what turned me off.
Well, yeah, I think we also, COVID didn't help either with us getting the NFL portion of it where we saw it first, and then a year later we get it, and people were already tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
I partially call that bad timing as well.
You're correct. I agree with that.
I mean, I feel that, That just kind of brings people back to, oh my God, I'm in my house and no one's out there. You know, oh my God, there's cardboard fans in the stands. You know,
I mean, I was looking at flashbacks on Facebook where I was just taking pictures of different things, and I actually had one, The Rock and Queen Elizabeth back in the
Yes.
day, side by
Yes.
side. Yes,
Yes.
classic.
That's
But anyway,
right.
good times, looking back. So that's basically our rumor mill right there. We've covered the full shebang, correct? I mean, is there anything I'm missing or anything that you think is worthy about bringing up?
I don't really think so. I mean, like I think I talked with you pre-show. Like you and I both had things we've said or had said to us, and I think that's as comfortable as I can go with like fully discussing without
Understood.
feeling like I'm sticking my neck out there. Because I'm also wanting to patiently wait and see. Like and these are guys that I've talked to that I trust fully. It's just that this is a very sensitive portion of this right now, and given the nature of that, it's been discussed that it could be very soon. I almost want to just be like waiting to the point where I'm like, if I see it and go, well, I was told about this, and now I can say it was confirmed, and I'm glad I got told early about it, instead of being out there thinking I heard something, instead of being out there having said something, and then I hate that if I mislead someone, like I'm gonna hate that. Like that's the part of me right now.
Same.
So that's kind of where I'm like, I don't want to go too much farther with what maybe I know, because I could say something like I said. Some guys I've been told that have told me things I do trust. I just don't want to get me and others off base for maybe saying something that could have been misconstrued, or maybe it was a wrong pathway to finding out or something. You know what I mean?
I totally get it.
We'll find out together on some portions,
You and I both, and anyone else in this realm of media, I mean, we have a responsibility, and it's not to press the panic button and make everyone freak the hell out about what's going on. And that's
right, dude.
That's what I feel has happened right now is we're panicking. The whole community's panicking. The USFL, not as much, because I mean, right now we're sitting at something similar with you guys. You may lose a team or two, but hell, you're not going to lose your home teams and half of the teams there or whatnot. So,
right.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's a lot for anybody in this time.
my only thing I'll throw out there for the team sense is that, hey, I hope Detroit gets its deal done and I can still have my Panthers is all, but again, that's just, and this is kind of like a example of like everyone wants their own personal preference of something.
Yep.
It just sucks because the main downside of this merger, with all the positives of like, hey, we can have a combined front, is you might have as a fan get an axe, and you might have to either rediscover or find a new ship, or I would hate to see someone leave because of it, but that is something that some folks might do, is what it is. The hope is it's not the majority. It is a small, loud minority. And that's all I mean, we'll find out soon enough. It's on the horizon if things are progressing the way we're talking.
So since we're done with the rumors, I got a couple more pieces, and then I want to get some fan reactions in here.
Yeah.
Just trying to gauge some out, because I mean, a lot of the people in here tonight are Roughneck fans. So that's pretty good. It fits in well with what's happening. But anyway, so 16, 12 teams or 10. I mean, we've discussed each now this week. Personally, I would love to see both leagues' teams together. But I know what that entails, and I know the money that entails. I also know how the actual logistics of that and how difficult that's going to be. People said the hub system is difficult. I mean, 16 different teams playing is going to be very difficult and expensive. Yeah. So personally, I don't feel like the 16 is going to work in any way, shape, or form. I realize that. It's sad, and I know it, but if this is what we're looking at, that's not going to work. Or it's going to have to be a 14, 12, or 10. 14's weird because you got 7 and 7, so it wouldn't. I'd rather have a 6 and 6. So let's go with 12. I just want to gauge your opinion. What do you think would be an ideal team amount for this merge? What do you see actually being a success to keep your fans happy and our fans happy and have this thing run as it should?
I would, I really would want to stick with 12 then. I will put this caveat that if we're talking about finances and kind of like, I would say how we've talked about on both leagues expansion, 10 is kind of that growth, but not too crazy growth number. So in theory, if you were, and also if you consolidated, you would also consolidate more costs by shedding 6 teams. In theory, you still could then have all of your stadium deals with 10, but I don't want to see that. 12 to me makes the most sense because it still maximizes the leagues. I think in a merger, you want to show a reasonable amount of growth, plus 4 teams total. If we're talking like we wanted one of them to grow from 8 to something else, 12 I think is reasonable. You do lose 4 total, but it's less casualties than if you were to go 6.
Exactly.
That's how I view it. 14 to me, and this is where we get into like a cost balance versus, fan balance, is 14 is better for the amount of fandoms kept, but it starts pushing the costs up again. And part of this merger is you're wanting to minimize some cost, try and push more towards profitability in a I think more friendly sense of what is fan engaging. And 14 to me is where you're starting to get too far. You can't do any odd number because that'll be awkward for divisions. 12 is kind of that ballpark, like the max to me where you go. And I think it's the best number, and why you're seeing this 6 hub, 2 teams apiece setup that ITL is reporting is that it maximizes that. You still see casualties, of course, but it maximizes how many you have without pushing your piggy bank too far out of bounds. So I go with 12 again. I think there is a reasonable discussion around that's why that number seems to be the magic number at this time.
Agreed. And I just wanted to gauge you on that and see what you thought, just personally.
Yeah. And I wish we had 16. I think everyone here, even in the chat, anywhere you go, I have not met anyone that says, yeah, I would, no, 16's silly. Like we're not going to keep 8 and 8. Like, let's not do that. No, I've never heard anyone say it because in reality, everyone would want to have all those markets. And yes, we'd repurpose one of the Houston ones. That'd be the only debate then, is we just repurpose Houston again. But you still get 16 teams and possibly add a new market. Vegas would move somewhere that has a better field in the end of that discussion, whether it was Nashville or Tempe. I know Portland was kind of a rumor, not rumor. That's kind of a middle ground. Some say yes, some say no. But, I'd be sitting here going, hey, I could possibly have a team in Tempe right by where I live. But I know that's not reasonable. And because we need to scale down slightly, but also get to that double-digit number and get the best of both worlds. And then again, we talked about maximizing the best possible IPs. This also does that, and it trims the fat to where it's not too much fat too.
Makes sense.
Still sucks in the end because you lose fandoms, but I digress. That's where you are.
Yep. If the sacrifice, I guess, between both teams is equal, you're going to see a lot less flash or backlash from that, I feel like. But who am I to make those decisions or even come up with those thoughts? As we were talking about earlier, we don't know what they're in thinking for what markets where and why. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. I'm happy with that answer as well with the 12, and I agree with you. The 10 teams would be pretty cutthroat, and I feel like it would definitely rub a lot of people wrong. So
that would be I agree with you. Because the 10 would be like you are really cutting it close with a surgical knife.
Yep.
In trimming fat. Like at that point you find like the worst, and then you find like, okay, what's like maybe not bad, super bad, but still like where we're going, okay, we can kind of live without you. We're gonna shed a tear about it, but this was like the tough decision. I'm sorry, buddy. It was the only way type of thing. This one, it's like, okay, we found the bad ones. Maybe we'll come back to you someday, hopefully, once we get things in order. These ones we see bright futures and we can build. The rest are solid pieces that have established spots that we know we can build from. That's where you're at with 12.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people creating their divisions and their teams and what they think's here and there. I mean, I've seen a whole bunch of that stuff now.
It's kind of fun to read a few of them because, I mean, there's some unique perspectives. Actually, there's one that was interesting to me. I don't know if this was fully understood in terms of you realize this wouldn't exist because we're probably sticking more with the existing brandings. But someone mentioned in the 6-hub system, they said, we'll put a hub in Memphis, but here's the kicker. One team is the Memphis Maniacs. One team's the Memphis Showboats. They said, we'll have 2 Memphis teams. I was like, oh, this one's a new one. I have not seen this come out. Let's read the rest of it was pretty sane, but like, they're like Memphis hub entirely. Embrace the Memphis.
They must be from Memphis or
Yes.
have some ties there.
Embrace your inner Memphinian. Choose the Maniacs.
I love Memphis. That's what my AAF stuff. That's from the Express. That's from their go about there. I mean, I went to almost all the games. I think I missed one before they shut down. So that was a good time.
That was my team in the AAF too, man. And plus, I'm a Bears fan, so I mean,
gotcha.
Mike Singletary. It's kind of hard for me not to root for him.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Yeah. I always tell people the last game they had was on my birthday.
Oh my God. That's a dual memory. Oh, it was so perfect. Oh God.
Got to see Johnny Manziel get knocked out, sit in the suite and chill. I mean, it was a good time, but yeah, had to bring that up about the Memphis stuff. I like Memphis.
Got a Brandon Silvers grew that day. You know.
Hey man, whenever I found out he was with the Roughnecks, I mean it was on. That was it. That's all it took.
Oh
yeah,
me. Yeah.
But anyway, dude, so far been good. Appreciate the insights. Appreciate the opinions. As I've said and as we said, this is speculation. You know, his opinion's his, mine's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the last piece on fan engagements, I just want to say that honestly, I did not plan on covering this topic. I wanted to skate right by this topic until all the hard stuff was finished and I could just present a simple document stating what is and what isn't, and then we could deal with the backlash. But as the week has gone on, I felt like it was necessary to sit here and break this down because there's so much confusion. There's so much craziness. You don't know what to believe from the guy that's commenting on your Facebook post talking about just crazy stuff all the way around.
Right.
So, guys, check this out. Tell your friends about it. If this can help them put this together, that's what I'm aiming to do. That's it, okay? What we're talking about in our opinions, it's what we think, but that goes so far, as you see, as the days change. So, anywho, let's roll into some fan reactions. Now, this is the best part of the night, I think. They've got comments galore ready to go here. So let me start with one and see what happens. I'm going to go back a little bit. So generally, let's hear USFL fan reaction because I'm only seeing mostly XFL. So what, from your side of things, how is this looking? Tell me that while looking throughout these comments.
Yeah, really. I mean, it probably will be a little, I know you're an XFL show, so I could see that too, but it'd be nice, like, because eventually a lot of these shows are going to start doing combined subject. That's like, that's how it's going to roll.
Yep.
You know? So we're going to see a lot of new fans engaging with each other more and more.
Good or bad.
It really will be like USFL, XFL fan group on Facebook where all the podcasts are going to be like, time to love each other, guys. But I mean, also I mean that in a serious note besides joking, because I know some of those posts can really just be kicking a bee's nest to kick a bee's nest.
Yeah, for sure.
You scroll on by because you're like, oh, I see where we're going. I don't want to read that comment section.
Exactly. Yeah, I think coming in, that's been the biggest thing for me is telling people, hey, I don't hate the USFL. Just I hope their success is the same as ours. It's a lot of people think you have to pick a side, and that's not how it works. I mean,
right, and I reflect that back in terms of I don't hate the XFL either, but here's the kicker when we were talking. It's like respectful fandom here. You can be a fan of one of the leagues, but also, understand and enjoy what is the opposite. That was what
Exactly.
I think a lot of people have been, at least good podcasters have been trying to say, is that like, hey, you can have even I've said this on X with some discussions on people where it's like someone's arguing where it's like, guys, stop hating on everyone. And it's like, look, let's be honest with ourselves. You can like one, but just respect that someone might like the other.
Exactly.
Just don't make it nasty. That was the whole thing. Like you're an XFL podcast, and I'm like, cool, that's great. You like that league, that's great. I watch the games. I might like the other one a little bit more. But at the end of the day, that's all it should be. Nothing else beyond that. Like, that conversation ends there. There's no but after that, because if there is a but, I'll be like, shut up. I'll look at them and go, shut the hell up. That's all that there is to it. There's 2 football leagues. You want to watch football? There's 2 football leagues you can go for outdoor in the spring. Go have some fun. Pick what you like. That's all it is.
And now you're looking at this combination. You better just get over it, because this is how things are going to be. Right,
because now it's like there's only one.
Yep.
You can't argue with people because you're watching the same damn thing now.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, but like I said, what about your fans, and what do they think about all this? How do they feel? I mean, can you give me a general sense of what you're hearing from your side?
So, I mean, any USFL guys I've reacted to, I think it's a little less dumbed down because of just, I mean, I guess if we're talking like the ITL piece in terms of like the email, that one, again, we've had hubs. So it's more interactions for them are the side of, well, oh God, well, my team doesn't have a stadium deal, because there aren't as many with stadium deals. So that's the side of a lot of fans right now is, oh man, I really hope mine's a good brand. I know we don't have one locked in, but mine's a good brand. You got to keep this brand. Like, I've seen a lot of Stars fans. If they take the Stars, I swear to God.
I've seen that personally.
Especially, I think even more so with, honestly, Stars fans and a lot of Breakers fans especially have been, if they take the Breakers from me, because I'll be honest with you, and that's why like some of these rumors about like New Orleans getting a stadium track is, you look at like merch sales on the USFL website and fan engagements on like multiple social medias. The Breakers are indeed, or should be, next in line to get a deal done. So like those guys in particular have been waiting and know that they are one of the biggest voices that don't have a place to go watch a game. So those guys I get. And I think that's a lot of the convo is, man, my brand's good. Please do not remove this. I have waited and been a very good fan. Save mine. That's it. Or even the Stallions one is one that surprises me, but it's more because the conversation of the ticket sales being a little lackluster year over year. And a lot of people thought they would jump, because they didn't have as many games to go to, and it's a second year in the market, and it didn't look like it performed as well. So a lot of those Stallions fans I've talked to that I've seen, they go, man, I hope because of us not being as eye-popping as like, say, one or two, as some of those Memphis crowds, or, one or two Detroit crowds. Like, I hope we're kept because we have been there and through the thick of it. And I'm like, and in my eyes, I talk to them and I go, I would riot if you were not, because you were the bedrock of the league. The league office was in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you have to go to bat in a merger, and that's one of your first points is Birmingham has to be at the table along with Canton, Ohio. I know the other hubs are of course you still talk about, but like if you lead discussions on cities, you bring those up because of those dedicated, longer lasting partnerships you've had over 2 years. So I almost am playing like reassurance with some fans where I'm like, I know it's even speculative, but I'm almost just sitting here going, dear God, I don't see a existence of Birmingham being removed in some capacity, like that's where I'm playing it. It's almost like you're trying to play almost like playing a therapist, where it's like, I'm in existential crisis stock. I don't know if my team's going to be there. And I'm like, here's what I would do, So
I wish
yeah,
I wish it was
Hub,
that peaceful
right?
on
Like
our
Hub
end.
News, like Hub News. It's like, well, I know, but yeah, but I mean, like I said, the XFL is the one that has a lot more of the in-stadium personnel. So that's where I see where that combo comes in. You talk two teams losing fan bases that were at cities, and we're definitely at cities. Whereas the USFL, you look at it realistically and go, those hubs feel safe. You know, even Detroit being talked about, which was, they're more just counter offering and had been publicly saying it's season 2. They're playing in Detroit no matter what. That's it.
Good takes. I had to ask, and it makes sense. From anything, do you feel like on your side are the fans benefiting from this?
I think they are, personally. At least if we're talking what the majority locations of a lot of these XFL teams are, I think they will. So, like for travel and like local fandoms, like for example, Memphis. I think like Memphis, St. Louis, that's not a terrible drive, if you wanted to travel or be somewhat close. I think new rivalries getting born. I think the possibility of like, if we're talking 50-50 split, we keep some of those teams, but they open because of that. They are recognized as the more valuable IPs, which means more guaranteed avenues of, I'm going to guarantee this city has a stadium soon, if not very soon, So I almost feel like they do benefit in some way because of this a lot. Like you're almost it's almost like extra reassurance that like, okay, these roaming IPs with these cities, whatever's kept are now almost being said, you are getting a city, like validation, which is what some of those that don't have hubs are kind of wanting, is that validation that I'm going to be able to go to this team in my town someday very soon. So yeah, I think so.
Agreed with that. And that makes total sense from your fan base, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I do like this comment from Mike G, and he is right for part of the regards. When I talk with BM fans, is that the summer heat in Birmingham is it's a pretty big factor. And someone brought this good point to me that if you notice any of the primetime night games in Birmingham, those crowds were very good for Birmingham. It's the daytime, like noon, 1 o'clock games where the sun is at its peak, and keep in mind, humidity down in the south in that area
I
is
know.
brutal.
That's not too far from me.
Too. Yeah. So, no, he's absolutely right. That is a factor. And a lot of Birmingham fans online made us think about that these stadium complaints wouldn't be as bad, or seat complaints wouldn't be as bad if they just changed the time that these games started.
Makes sense. Easy fix, too. Right. From year to year, at least.
Fix.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it'll be a little more complicated because, like, with a merger now, you're not guaranteed. Like, Birmingham's not going to just always be in prime time.
Yeah.
If it is kept. But that was a main thing. Like, Birmingham, it's a good market. It's dedicated fan base, really good. But yeah, it gets hot, and people do respond to that heat more in that time of year.
Yeah, no doubt.
They don't want to be outside as much like that.
Especially this last year. My Lord, it was tough.
Yeah, Lordy indeed. Right?
It's still tough down here in the afternoon, at least.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw some questions and comments up, okay? I will say 60-70% of these are from Roughneck fans. So you're going to see Roughnecks be in here a lot, all right? So don't be surprised, okay? I'm trying to work my way up and start from there. I'm not going to pick every single question, but I'm going to pick some that are impactful. So
yeah.
Here's this first one, and this was one exactly for you. You're the man to answer this. USFL isn't profitable. Do you think this is true?
I say I contradict that because I've heard otherwise.
So I have as well.
I'm going to say that is not the case. And again, this isn't one person that's told me. I've heard this from multiple people. They've made money.
Understood.
It's not a lot of money in terms of a big media company. Like, yes, maybe it's not. I've heard from Mike that it's not the projections, which I could argue maybe that's the case, but no, they've made money. I will put that down. And I've seen that go around too. Like it's been, some people said yes, some people no. They've made a little bit of cash. So that is the case. That, and keep in mind that, this is one of the criticisms we've heard from folks on the USFL that look on the outside and talk about it, is like, well, you're cutting corners. Well, they don't want them to have losses. That's the thing. That's why they designed a lot of this, was because they are dead set. They want to maximize where they can and scale. No, I am very confident they have at least made that. I know they've made some money.
Understood. And is that valid for year one as well? Is that from your knowledge?
Definitely for year one. Year two, I will say I have less confidence on, because there's more expenditures.
Understood.
But if you want to take home like year one, I know for sure year one they made some money. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's basically, I mean, you see how that goes into these conversations, though.
Mm-hmm.
People were wondering, well,
right. And you see those hubs, like if that's really part of it, well, it does save cash. Like that's what I do understand people's issue with them. Like I really do. But I then circle back and like, you have to remind people, this is a business. Like at the end of the day, profits and cash flow, these are important, and especially to a company. And if you read anything on Redbird Capital, this was something that, when I was talking about, or when I talk with folks about the XFL, where I'm like, I'm curious about this business model. That was one thing people dead set told me about Redbird. They're in the business of making money. So any losses, that has to make people think. Now, again, I know that, for example, year two, I don't know exacts on the USFLs for year two. I know like there's been reports that it's not as good as we expected. Hell, Daryl even said the same, where the TV metrics didn't match up. But there are numbers on the sales numbers they made in terms of advertising. They had more deals with companies. I'm confident year one they made money. Year two, I can say less so, but speculatively, either they came close or they made a slim margin. That's how I view. Because keep in mind, they also added more expenses when they went to extra hubs.
Yep.
So that's where I'm a little speculative, where I'm not 100% concrete. I know for a fact they made money year one. And that is multiple places I've been told they made something out of year one.
Understood. Appreciate that. That's good guidance right there, because a lot of people are just, especially the XFL folks, we don't know that. We have to search for that. So I had to ask. Next up on the list, this is from Mike. I don't think this is this isn't you, Mike G, is it? I don't think so.
There's a lot of Mikes on here.
What's the thinking in the rumor of picking the Gamblers over the Roughnecks? Make it make sense.
I've been thinking about this one a lot lately too, especially with the talks about that the Gamblers brand would take over that Houston market. I think there's two pieces that I have that are keys here. One is a little less so in terms of, I would say, impact, but it does matter in some regards. The main one to me is equality in terms of the 50-50 split, I think. And I have a feeling with the fact that you have more XFL teams that have stadium deals, including in Houston, that to preserve some 50-50 of teams having IP exist from the USFL, that's a market where they go, we concede one, And keep in mind, if you look at, I would think in terms of some attendance metrics, I think that's part of it, where you can say, all right, I know Houston fandom, by the way, I love their fandom. It wasn't as big as it was in 2020. And I think they go, well, it wouldn't completely be a killer if we switch to the Gamblers. Also, and this is where this ties into part two, the Gamblers do have some IP strength in terms of legacy branding. They were one of the more recognizable USFL brands from the 80s. Jim Kelly, the run and shoot, that stemmed as a popular reason to remember the Houston Gamblers. If the ref was on here right now, he lives in Houston, by the way, or the Houston metro area. he will swear to you that he has had more people recognize his Gamblers gear than they do Roughnecks gear. And that's a personal story. That doesn't mean the whole equation, but it is a brand that has been around the block a little longer, has NFL stars attached to it in terms of Hall of Fame talent that you could reference. And that's where I'm getting the second part. I do say that I think there are valid arguments from the core audience that recency bias should be put into place because, yes, the Roughnecks have been there since 2020 in terms of the populace, and they are recognized as an XFL brand. But I do think that those two factors, specifically, especially the equal IP representation, I think that's really going to be at play, and I think that's kind of it. When you have a combined, and not to mention a combined fight for a market that was going to take place with or without this merger, by the way, and then the fact that you already have 6 deals done without Houston, that's when I think they just said we would concede and that they could see the reasoning. And even in broadcast, you can reference the Gamblers' history there as well. But I get why it's not like everyone's cup of tea here.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put the pieces together. That's my make it make sense to me.
I understand.
That would happen.
Yeah.
So if for Mike in the purple logo, I know it's not Mike G. It's the best way I can differentiate. I hope that is a good answer, at least a good enough answer. I'm not going to say it's the perfect answer. No answer to me could be perfect there, but that's how I would justify it to where it makes enough sense to why that's happening.
Understood.
Or supposedly happening. Supposedly it's not confirmed because, again, that's reports. Let me keep myself honest. Supposedly, I'm going to leave it like that.
I mean, you got to throw it in there. Throw it in there.
Speculatively.
Keep yourself safe.
To be honest with myself, so I don't come off like that. Because, again, we started this combo in honesty, and I'm going to stay with my honest word in the way that is. That's how I justify it. So that's where
Makes sense. Makes sense. I really don't have an answer for that. Being a Roughnecks fan, that's a tough one for me personally.
Right. I mean, for you, like, this is a little different. I'm a Panthers fan, but, like, again, I'm coming from the USFL side, so, like, I've been used to hubs for 2 years now, and I'm kind of I'm happy if we get a new one. For you, like, we knew this fight was coming. I mean, that's been a key discussion probably when we talk about these two, even on your side of things, I know, is because, like, what's the point of keeping another Houston branding that didn't get in market? The USFL should just concede and pick another IP, which I did get that. But then there's others but yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My other thing was, but then I've actually seen a few people that are like, well, you can put them across town or something. But I'm like, the other one is the logic is like, no, you're better off just let's slow down. It's probably eventually you just pick one and the other would move on. But that's a common discussion that has been taking place now for well over really 2 years, because it's been even talked about before the league started for the XFL last spring. So to be fair,
I mean, even then the conversations were centered around where would they both play? Would they share a stadium? Would one be across town and one be here? What would happen when the USFL comes to town with the Gamblers? So that was the conversation prior. So I think that may be kind of why it's such a big deal. I mean, they love it. And the people that are there, most of them are Houston fans in general. So, I mean, that's what they do, and that's what they do all the time. I don't know. It's tough. I can see the history there, though, that you talk about, and I can see why that would make that brand so hard just to throw away, because it has this run-on history.
Well, can you bring up this comment? I think this is a good point that I want to counter, or at least affirm. Brahma Babe has one about the Jacksonville Bulls. If you see,
I got you.
And I do get this one here, and it says the Bulls were around in Jacksonville in the '80s. No one under 35 can tell you who they were, and I do agree with you on that, because I'll be honest, I don't know of anyone off the top of my head that played for the Bulls. But here's the kicker that's different from the Bulls to the Gamblers. Players that played on the Gamblers, and that's where we go into discussion on what's a valuable IP and what is the valuable ones to keep and discard. Because, like, I agree, like, you could, like, in a serious, realistic discussion about getting rid of the Gamblers because the Roughnecks are there if this merger doesn't exist, like, there's some folks out there that are like, dude, just bring the Bulls back. They brought in a lot of ticket sales in the 80s, But if I were to tell you, like, if I asked you someone off the cuff, like a football fan, name me 3 USFL branded teams, I guarantee you the Gamblers come up 9 times out of 10 with every single one of them, because they know who Jim Kelly is, because they know who Mouse Davis is, because they know the run and shoot. That's why that brand, and why I use that justification. Where the Bulls don't fit that, the Gamblers fit this context way better.
Understood. Yeah, it makes sense. I haven't got any bad comments back, so I think everybody understands as well. They'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a weird convo, and I think I love that this is like, I love that part of this discussion tonight, or a lot of it in the comments, has been about the Houston element alone, because it is vital. It is vital. It's been vital for 2+ years.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Key piece of football play down there in Houston, or even San Diego. I mean, San Antonio, any of those places. I mean, that's huge. So I don't know. These are my people, the Houston people. So it hits a special place in my heart for sure.
I'm looking forward to go down there sometime to tailgate with the ref. He's told me about these legendary tailgates for Texans games, and I need to get down there just for that someday.
Me as well.
If anything, to go meet whatever Houston fan base gets down there in the near future. So either way, because I don't know, I just have heard great things about Houston tailgates for spring football and football in general, because it's Texas, baby.
It is a good time.
State of Texas.
I'll say this has been over the last year. It's my only real experience in Texas was for this. I mean, I've been to Texas a few times here and there, but I haven't really hung out or done anything. And I went to all the games, the divisional game, the championship game, and man, there's a lot. And that's a great place. San Antonio too, man. I love San Antonio. That was an epic place.
It's been years, but yeah, I mean, I've had people joke about the Riverwalk. Like, there's some like, oh, they have a Riverwalk. They tout that. I'm like, guys, you don't understand. This Riverwalk's freaking badass.
It is.
Like, let's not joke about it. This is a great place to go in town, period. You know,
Brahma Babe invited us. She said we're welcome anytime.
I've got friends in arena football down there. The San Antonio Gunslingers, by the way, for those Brahma fans out there, go check that team out. That's a good time. They're at the Freeman Coliseum down there. But yeah, San Antonio, some good people I've met. Like, I would love to go back if I have a chance. If I had endless time in the world, that would be another spot. I'd be like, I'm revisiting this ASAP.
Agreed. I had RC back on the show months ago. It feels like years now, Lord. Mm-hmm. Back when we first started, I think episode 3, we actually had RC from the, what's the name of their podcast? Mike G, are you listening? What's the name of their podcast?
Are you talking Smoking Gun?
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Smoking Guns. Yep.
Because I'm good buddies with, or I'm at least, me and Phil talk a lot.
Gotcha.
Or if you ever heard of Ralph Jenkins, he does a lot of the play-by-play for the Gunslingers. We talk a lot online. So, but no, they're great people. Especially that podcast, very good podcast, period.
Agreed. So, check it out if you haven't, guys, at home. It's good. Mm-hmm. And they really, even if you don't like the sport itself, they'll get you liking it for sure. They get you invested. All right, let's roll in. We're going to do a few more, man, then we'll hop off. I'll try to cut it short at 2 hours.
Good. I could stay on here all night chatting combos, but I understand. So.
I'm the same way, man. And this is the first late night episode I've ever had, I'd say.
XFL
After dark, baby. That's what I like it. Yeah, that's it. We coined that term back when XFL had the game in Seattle that didn't end till 2 a.m. or so. There's a few different people online hashtagging it.
We all start getting used to that one real quick.
Mm-hmm. Anywho, let's roll back into some. Let me see what I got. All right, Predator couple. Let me read this. The XFL with this move just lost a lot of people that were on the fence about buying into the league. They show too many inconsistencies and not about the fans. And as a super fan, it's hard to hear, and it sucks. I agree with that.
Ooh. Yeah, I think if you're on the fence, and not to mention some of the discussion around this has been you might be seeing a brand new brand too. Mm-hmm. Let's keep that in mind. Like, in this merger, it's something possibly fully out of left field. And that's a risk you are taking. Like, I think that's part of the rich, like when I talk about the loud, or like what they hope is a loud vocal minority, not saying that Pred Couple is that. I'm just telling you, in theory, that's what is the hope, I imagine, in a merger, is you have a minority set, but the majority still are, well, it's spring football, you know? And so that's the sway. But yeah, the on the fence portion is what you're hoping is avoided here. But it does hurt when it's, especially for XFL side of it, you only played a year and you're talking merger, you know? And I'm not trying to insinuate anything with that, but the inconsistency part of this question or comment definitely, I feel, is shown there if its merger goes through, because wait a minute, you built me up for 2+ years to do one season and then go talk to Fox to merge already?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's
Your
what
competition.
You're hoping a lot of people forget, you know, or don't want to talk about, but it is there. Like, that is a valid point, you know? More time, a lot more time still was, like, in the grand scheme of it, you had more time spent building up a brand and rebranding at that point too, just to say, hey buds, let's talk. It's post July 2nd, or I think it was July 2nd this year's championship. It's post July 2nd. What do you say we have a chat? You know, I imagine that's not how it went, but if you want,
what if it is though? What if it is?
What have a talk over some stogies?
Oh Lord, it's a round table. It's a round table, Zach. Oh my. I mean, my thing about it is whenever this season started with the XFL, and this was in the numbers. You could see this in the numbers, whether it be fan numbers, TV numbers, whatever. That second rendition, XFL 2.0, it was a hit. It didn't last long. It was a hit. But what you saw in that next rendition of XFL was half or more of the fans came back, and the other half said, no, we're not doing this. Sorry. And that's my opinion. They didn't have to do much marketing even with the actual XFL side, because you had these returning fans such as the Predator Couple coming and ready to roll without you telling them anything or doing nothing. Mm-hmm. So I can see this comment here, and what they mean is, I mean, they're going to lose some fans in that area, I know, and there won't be any way around it.
I do have a wonder if, and credit, I'm not saying this is like the end all be all for where a merger went, or like why some people had these thought or animosities towards this rebrand from 2.0, but like, I really do wonder what happens if we go back and just say, what if Danny and Dwayne weren't as focused on making 3.0 its thing? Like, what if we didn't have a focus on the minimalism, black and white, drain the rock, hardcore look, you know, or smoother look, and we just stuck with what we liked, you know, even brandings too. Like, we don't rebrand the Dragons looks. We leave the Battlehawks stuff alone a little more, you know, yada, 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 you know. I'm not saying it's all of it, but like, there were people that did kind of go, whoa, what's all these changes for? Or, whoa, you moved a market away?
Yep.
Like, that's what we're talking, you know?
Yep.
Like, I mean, even with us knowing the New York market with the Guardians looked weird in the stadium, I do remember folks that were avidly revolting that they moved the Guardians to Orlando and said, bye-bye New York City. Like, yes, it was a vocal minority of people, but it still made people look and go, yeah, that's kind of interesting. You did just kind of move all this stuff around, you know, or you didn't repurpose, like someone the other day mentioned to me, you know, Orlando, what's a Guardian in Florida? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I can't give you a good answer how that relates to Florida, but it's what they chose. Like, I mean, what do I tell you there? You know, what do I say in that instance? Like, I can tell you the history of how that came to be. I can't tell you why that they said Guardian makes sense in Central Florida. I don't know. Yeah, it's part of the grand discussion. It's the past now, but like, I think it does play into the, like, you're talking, some folks leave because, well, this isn't my 2.0, and I'm like, you might have a point, you know, like, at least a little bit. I haven't thought about that totally, but I'm like, it was talked about back at the time, and here we are. Maybe we have something to say about it now, I guess.
All right, let's roll on to another one. I prayed a couple. I see you got a few questions in the bank, so I'm going to wait. I'll get back to you. Let's not do that one. All right, let's do this one. Am I crazy for saying that if they do the hub format, that'll kill some TV ratings? Because if no one's at the games, no one wants to watch those games. Just saying.
Man, I have learned. First, Carlos, good to see you, buddy. Always love chatting with you about football here. My thing is, I will tell you, I have learned a lot about the football fan perspective on having no one in the stands. Like, I really, like, full disclosure, myself, I watch for the football, but I learned a lot really quick on how many people have to have that noise, that goofy goober in, like, row one to have the camera pan to. Like, I have learned so much, and I went, you know what? I completely, I get it now. Like, for you, if you feel like that is how you need football to be, like, I concede anymore. And to reiterate this, like, yes, if we're talking like the 6 hub format flat without me saying some bulletin points are missing, then yes, we might need to talk about this a little deeper. But I still am on the track where I'm sitting here going, there has to be more context, because even executives will know from the XFL side, the ones that didn't want to do it after they saw the USFL do that model and some of the backlash, like we're talking, Carlos is mentioning here, I would be flabbergasted if they went that way with half of the ownership knowing that would be the result. So that's where I'm sitting here and again saying context is missing, and I don't think that's the full story. But if they do that, yeah, we might have to, maybe we don't see as much growth, or maybe it keeps at the similar levels. I don't know. Because like to the casual football fan, which spring football guys like you and I know, that the casual NFL fan just likes to take the jab because it's there and it's not the NFL. Doesn't matter what you give. Doesn't matter if it is a football player and it looks like quality stuff. It's not the big logo from the guys in New York City. So 100%. It doesn't matter.
Yep. 100%.
And it drives me nuts, but that's how people in the casual football audience think.
Yep.
And that hits with the casual football guys. That's another jab. So that's why you sit there and you go, I don't think that's the full story, because that's too easy for the casual football guys to go, oh God, another year of hubs? Just think about how easy that is as a layup. I just don't see it. That would be, and I will gladly send you a clip to say, if that is how they do it, I'll be like, I was wrong. What the hell happened, guys?
I mean, you got to try, and you got to hope the best for our brands, that we're going to come together and make the best decisions. And
because I see what Carlos is saying here, because yes, the casual dude will rip into this like it's a freaking deli sandwich. You know?
No doubt. I mean, that's what we can go into more comments. It's like Brahma Babe here. I don't feel the fans of the XFL will cater to the USFL hub model. This league is supposedly about the fan experience, so keep us on board is a must. As a super fan, I would not travel hours away for home games. I already travel 1.5 hours to go to games one way.
Right. And that's, again, it's another thing where like it reiterates I think there has to be context missing.
That's why I threw this in there.
Yeah. And it's a good add-on, because again, like you're just adding more fuel to that fire if you go that route where you go, all right, well, F it. It's easier for me to leave, because you don't want them to leave. In a merger like this, you want as many fans to combine. That's why I'm in a holding pattern where I'm like, I can't fully just stamp it and be like, that's all of it. Like, I definitely think it, again, I think it is the main title card on the PowerPoint slide, but there's bulletin points there. They're not being listed yet because someone hasn't clicked the clicker to make it show up, but there are bulletin points on that damn slide somewhere. So, and it's because of stuff like this that I go, there's no way, and for just understanding how the XFL framed itself just like Brahma Babe's talking here. There is no way to me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're crazy.
Unrealistic.
We've all lost our minds, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. You can't tell somebody what they're going to like. I mean, you built this.
That throws all your consumers out. Like, you say that, nope, that just means we'll leave. You know,
you built this.
Bye-bye.
It's a big building right now, and we still haven't got everything installed yet. You know, it's still in the works, and now we're saying, hold on, we're not done building, but we're going to build over here. I mean, I can see where they're coming from 100%.
Yeah. I tell I'll reiterate my last thing on that for sure is put a holding pattern on the 6 hub things, like acknowledge that it is sounding real in terms of that report, but don't go full bore into saying doom and gloom, because I do think they are I think Mike G putting in here, maybe they fly the 6 teams out of the hubs, make it a hybrid USFL XFL model. That's not too crazy.
Have a couple home stadiums or something like that.
If you think about it from this scale, you're cutting. I mean, in the merger, you have more teams, but you are keeping relatively the same amount of flights per year, if not slightly less, because it'd be less hub teams or less ones having to fly out. So that's a speculative thing, but I would think that's a more realistic thing and one that keeps everyone happy. So that's, but yeah, we still have to be a holding pattern, because again, just saying 6 hubs, you're going to drive yourself nuts.
Yeah.
And I don't think the league would want to go that route, because they know the business is dead at that point if you try and do that.
Yeah, that's just giving up, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I feel what you mean. And that if they're really just like, here, make this a hub, make this the USFL with XFL rules, it's not going to work. You'll get some of those fans, but it's not going to translate.
It has to be the great collective. Like I said, merger of equals, and you can't, excluding a whole fan base. Like at that point, that's where we all say, what's the point? The USFL might as well just go do its normal thing.
Yep, exactly.
And the XFL might as well just go back and try itself. Like
exactly.
That's where I'd be like, no, just leave the USFL alone. Like I'd be like, go home, XFL, go start planning your stuff. This is basically the same thing, but we're just both adding extra PR pressure to ourselves when we do that now.
So, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at this point, any flaw in this product next year is going to be seen. Any flaw, any
negative. A lot more pressure with a merger like this, you know. A lot of things to succeed on. You want so, yeah.
Let's go with 2 more questions and then we'll hop off. Sound good? Or statements and questions.
Yeah, I think that sounds good to me.
Cool. Appreciate you again coming on today, man. It's been great. Really insightful. Fun. Yeah. It's good conversation.
No, you're a great conversationalist. I love this chat. So
appreciate that.
Really thrilled.
All right, let's go back to Brahma Babe. I get growth and wanting to build a bigger product. I'm all for that. But doing it fast and sloppy doesn't present a stable product. Cities like San Antonio are working against the stigma of being screwed by a previous team, Commanders with the AAF. Many fans this season didn't trust XFL, therefore didn't bite. I believe that in San Antonio. And that's when you go, you can see that. That city would rally behind that team. But there's a big stigma that, hey, it's spring football. They may leave again.
Right. I mean, San Antonio, if we list if you gave me 3 or 4 cities off the top of cuff that are like staples of spring football history, and this is like the folks that are into this stuff, like Birmingham, Memphis, San Antonio, those are really the big 3. They've had tons of teams in their history, all various leagues, all have come and gone and have not worked. And I think San Antonio, to me, the point about the Commanders, that cannot be overstated. Even when the Brahmas were being built up, the city still is reeling from and some business entities are reeling from the failures and misguidance of the AAF. The AAF, good God, it is still to this right
haunting.
Now haunting people that were involved with it. I don't know if this has been resolved, but last I checked, it was just either early this spring or late fall. I can't remember, or late winter. I can't remember which. lawsuits are still being dealt with for the AAF for
Yep.
some of the stuff that was left behind. It has not been forgotten, especially San Antonio. I completely get in some regard, probably is not forgotten in terms of like officials and people that did get behind this, that were hardcore fans of the Commanders. They haven't forgotten, you know, they had a team in their grasp that was in a complete organization that was completely bankrupt of some accountability and bankrupt, at least in terms of, I think, competence in how it was run. So that does hurt. I mean, you can add on, you know, wasn't a winning team, you know, which that's another argument I've heard from a few guys. Again, my buddies in San Antonio that love the Brahmas. A few of them say, well, San Antonio is a city that it only gets behind a true winner. And I'm like, maybe that is kind of true. I don't fully know. People, you're free, like Brahma Baby, you're free to talk on that. But I think the AAF point, it's weird to say that because it's been 4 years now, but the AAF still kind of lingers, and it still is a massive example of what the worst case scenario is for this going wrong with the wrong people in charge.
100%. Yep.
So that is a bit of a factor there, because I fully believe in San Antonio as a market. I was shocked that post week 1, the numbers fell so hard as they did, even with the performance of the team. And I still believe in that market even after this past year.
She said the stink definitely lingers.
There you go. You know, and I mean, if you folks that live there will know the most. That's the thing. Especially if you're in touch with the community, you'll know.
Definitely.
You'll definitely know.
And she said our schedule was crappy.
Yeah. There were a few of those late games too. I'm not going to lie. You know, I bet Seattle fans can argue that even more so too, given how that was, you know.
Man, in terms of people like Brahma Babe, she's another super fan. I don't know if I told you about her necessarily. She's right there with the Predator couple, except she's in San Antonio.
No, I've seen her on broadcast too. I recognize the horns.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely know who she is, and I mean, in that, I know that at least in a few hours of the collective group, I believe Jorge as well is one of them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like I said, there's dedicated good guys out there. Like, and some of these are also cross fans with the Gunslingers, by the way, in that arena team.
Yep.
You know, that's a good group of folks that love alternative football. You know, it just, the whole situation around the AAF with that lingering stink sucks, though, and that's going to take some time. You know, and that's where I'm like, with this merger, you keep San Antonio in some perspective. Again, the hub situation makes it iffy, but we got to weigh on to me more details that would be revealed. But like, say the hypothesized like flyout scenario or whatever, like keep building there, you know, like just keep showing. And this is what I tell Birmingham fans too, like keep showing you're still there. Because even Birmingham, remember, AAF city, you know, they were still a reasonable audience, not as good as the Commanders, but they were still pretty good. They were one of the upper tier teams in attendance in the AAF, but they got burned as well. And I keep telling people, and even when I talk with folks that are fans in Birmingham that I am good buddies with, keep coming back, keep showing the community, hey, this isn't a joke. We're serious. We aren't leaving. We are permanent mainstay of this community. We are not fly by night. We are not the same story you have seen if you read up on spring football. We are to stay. And you can only accomplish that with years built on each other of repetitive marketing, repetitive market engagement and impact and structure. San Antonio needs that. You know, that's what's going to be taken. You know, get to that year 2 in whatever capacity.
I think they do a good job at that now. They have their own fan show. Horns Forward podcast. It's pretty successful amongst the fans and people there. They do fundraisers. They're in events. They're having meetings. They just wrapped up a meeting. I don't know the details of exactly. Mike, if you're listening, if you want to shoot me those details, I'll read them out loud if I can. But they had a meeting with someone within admin on the actual team. So
okay.
Got some fan feedback. They got some responses and such. And I believe it was like yesterday or today or something. I can't remember exactly, but I try not to get involved in too many things that I can't keep up with.
It'd be fascinating to see if anyone, if you can't even share anything, because I know some of those, like, I know like some of those groups, even like Birmingham, with their horseman group, like that's connected with the league. So like you can't, like they can share stuff with those guys, but you
Exactly.
kind of can't share it with everyone else because then you get in hot water and no one wants to lose that relationship. So, hey, if it's shareable, I'd be cool to listen to it too. But yeah, I mean, hey, if not, I understand.
Oh,
We
not for
understand.
public consumption. Apologies.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Keep your NDA then. Don't do
Yep.
it because we asked.
Well, I don't know either. I just heard the rumors, so that's the thing about it. I mean,
I feel you.
these are things I saw in that group also, so it's not like, I just know what I read. And
Yeah. I feel
anyway, let's move on. Awkward topic. All right, two more points, and they're both from the Predator couple. Okay.
All right.
First one, we were just talking about San Antonio, and this fits right in. And now that the XFL is doing this, the trust you wanted to create is out the window. And you have done nothing but create mistrust and a complete uneasy feeling. I mean, he's hit the nail on the head. I mean, especially if you're talking about your group or your team being taken out. I can't imagine how that feels.
Yeah. 1 year. I think that's what it all would stem back to is, for that side specifically, it's been 1 year with the new ownership. Like, that's where if you're like, Predator couple here and you're going, what the hell? We just came back for 1 season and now we're doing this, and you're putting that back on it where I have to sit in this like gray area until things are locked up. Like, yeah, that's uneasy as all God for somebody, I'd be in the same boat. I'd be like, oh, cool. But my best advice we all have is, I guess, all you can do is ride out the storm and you hope that the best of both worlds show up to run the operation. Like, USFL guys, they'll tell you up and down. If Moose Johnson isn't involved with this, well, that's not going to help anything at all. If I imagine for the XFL, if like you didn't hear Russ Brandon's name, like if Russ Brandon somehow isn't part of it, that might bring some XFL people to raise a red flag. Well, wait a minute. Russ Brandon is essentially what Moose is. So you're telling me Moose is here, but Russ is not? Or like if Mark Ross wasn't there, then you get down in the weeds. Like, for example, like, oh, well, we want Jim Pop on the USFL. Oh, we want Doug Whaley. I don't know about that, but like you want like the best leaders, okay? Like that's where you're sitting and you're hoping, like, yes, I am also grumble. This has been a year. Why the hell are we doing this? But on the same time, like, as long as they bring the best people, you hope to have that amount of faith is all that matters. It still stinks because no one wants to sit in that gray area after a year. Again, key part, a year, 1 season. It's a valid point.
Yeah. I mean, it's a super valid point, especially for someone like the Predator couple. I mean, they organize a lot of tailgates, events. They keep a lot of the fan engagement going with the tailgating groups and such. So you can see the investment they have in it, time and money, effort.
I do want to see if if someone puts a fan poll out, like how many people in, like, if you do the general, like, especially if XFL USFL the XFL USFL fan page on Facebook that has like upwards of like 10,000 plus members. I would love to see a poll of, would you support a Houston team, period? Like, don't even mention the Gamblers, don't even mention the Roughnecks. Just say, no matter what happens, are you in or are you out, no matter the brand? Like, that's what I'd be fascinated by just on that market, because that'll show the loyalty to the city or the brand loyalty,
Understood.
Because like Fred couple, I know you can see they're Houston, like Roughnecks fans. But if the Gamblers, as reported, take over, do they support the Gamblers and set up these things for the Gamblers? And do you buy the merch and re-up on that, which is a cost commitment for the merch, but it is technically with part of the ownership that was the Roughnecks. So it's a fascinating question. I actually want to see that poll happen. I might post it myself after this or tomorrow morning when there's more people awake, because I want to see, like, that's the thing. Like, do you support the city or do you support the brand that you liked that was associated with the city?
See, now I wasn't going to click this one, but I'm going to since we're already talking about it. Should the Gamblers and Roughnecks combine some players, coaches, and staff?
I saw this one come up while we were talking. That's a tough question. And I mean it would fit with the consolidation method, but the hard part is who stays is the deal.
Yep.
You know, because I mean, yeah, like Wade Phillips is going to probably fit better in the community, you know. But I mean,
that's a tough one.
That's a really tough one.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a lot of questionable
which one was the
things
playoff
there.
Roster, who won the division, who was not in the playoffs to use in a row. I get,
we know who the stars are of each team. Who the most important players are on those teams.
Oh, sure. I mean,
I'll tell you, as a Roughnecks fan, we lost the most important, and that was John Trey Kirkland. He is now, practice squad for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
That was one of the best wide receivers in the game of XFL, in my opinion.
Yes, he was, man. That was a good one. Really good talent as well. Ooh, XFL Mike G here said, message me about that poll. So I definitely want to see that poll because, like, I think that'll be telling, like, what the realisticness of just Houston, if there's a switch to happen, would be, you know. But
agreed.
That Carlos comment or question is that's a tricky one.
It's so tough. Carlos got the good questions, man.
Yeah. Well, it plays into ITL's talk about how you might see a skew on staffs, you know, which keep in mind, I mean, I'm bringing this up because of the fact that it is going to be part of that discussion is, you know, also what might be the less expensive staff.
Exactly. Is that what we're asking at the end of the day? It's the important
part
question.
of it. Because I'll be honest, I mean, you probably know this. I am certainly sure I know this. Some of those XFL head coaches got paid some good money. And that is going to, I think, be like, okay, how valuable is that name for a cost thing, you know, and, you know, how many can we keep, how many we can't, like, I could go into a rabbit hole about that, but
same.
Yeah.
We could spend 30 minutes on that topic. I think just
right.
Have 3 or 4 things in my head and ready to come out right now.
I know, right?
But anyway, we've been on here for 2 hours and 23 minutes. It's been a minute.
It's a good combo. I'm so thrilled I got to sit on here tonight.
I'm glad you came, man. Seriously.
This is the perfect entry to my weekend. Like, this is the beginning of my work weekend. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate you coming on. I mean, I know for a fact that you've helped put not only a map on all this, but we're connecting 2 fan bases, whether we know it or not. And then I know that. So that's one of the most important things to me. I've had all kinds of XFL folks on here. I mean, I've had IFL players. I've had people recruiting. I've had all kinds of stuff. But you are the first USFL only guy that I've really had on here.
Well, thank you.
It's unfortunate that the times brought us here, but I'm glad, and I really value your expertise and your knowledge. It's really went a long way tonight, man.
I really do appreciate that, you know, and that means a lot. I can tell you, one of the most rewarding things I had in my life is becoming a fan of spring football. You know, and that's just fandom, you know, and something that I love meeting people in the communities here. I love meeting new folks and new friendly faces and people that express the same thing. It's fun to have a good interest in something like this. And one that I think is really great because I think, you know, it's not just us fans that want it, you know, the industry wants it too. Another league, another avenue to watch and have people develop their football skills. Well, we get to watch more of the best sport in the world.
Exactly.
I mean that in full sincerity. This is the best sport in the world, the best team sport in the world. You know, and I get to see, and I get a better possibility, especially this year. I get to watch basically 24/7 of my favorite sport. Yeah, there's some variation. I know CFL, if you like it or not, you know, arena, if you like it or not, but like I get 365. That's a beautiful thing.
Yes, sir.
You know, even through all the discourse that we have as fans of these leagues, which I hate so much because it's still football. It's a beautiful thing that we get to watch this football. And we should see to get to continue it next spring in some way. So
it's going to look way different, my friend. But
will.
I think with what's happened so far, I'm confident that we're going to piece this together. One podcast at a time, one game at a time, one tailgate at a time. I mean, I think we're going to be okay in the most part. It's hard embracing change and any kind of change in your life, and
we got to ride the storm, But
exactly.
I think as us fans, we'll all come through this hopefully for the better, and those that do lose teams, we will accommodate them well openly and hope for the best for them, because I do think that's what good fandom does, especially for how this is looking to turn out.
Yes, sir. Agreed. You're going to have to hold me after I find out if they get rid of the Roughnecks. You'll have to give me some cuddles, make me feel better.
I'll let my co-host come on here, and he'll mail you a gambler's hat and say, "All in, baby, all in." I hope he sees that clip, by the way.
I watched the show today.
I hope to God he sees that. I have been trying my best to mimic him. All in, baby.
I saw it today. I was like, man, I love the energy. That's it, baby. Give it to me. I listened to the whole thing. It was a good show. All right, last comment, and then we're going to roll out of here, okay? This one's kind of long, but it's funny.
Damn. This is a long one. Sorry, I had to laugh.
You're good. I read this one already online, but it's funny. I'm just going to start kind of in the middle. I heard that the XFL and USFL are scraping all the teams. The first season, they're going to let AI create all new teams from randomly picked cities, and all citizens are eligible to play. The following season, 2025, the top winners in all fantasy football leagues will play the players they picked in the previous season. If 2 or more teams picked a player, they will enter the Thunderdome, and whoever walks out alive will get that.
My God.
Fan theories, and to be honest with you, this one's far-fetched, and this is they're trying to be funny. They're doing some comedic stuff here, but if you actually get on there and start looking it up, dude, there is some crazy stuff going on that in general, that people have created divisions and teams and mascots and names and things that I never thought would be possible from 4 articles and a couple podcasts.
It just shows you how much people care.
I agree.
Well, it's just how much, I think it is a little bit fun. Like it is in terms of, I think, the speculation for this. I'm not saying it's like all down and out. Like there is some downers in terms of what could happen, but like on the flip side, if you're laughing through the pain, that's kind of like the dealing is like, all right, well, here's what I think this is going to be, and let's have fun chatting about it. But I do, like, I'll be honest, in that situation, I love fantasy football, but I would actively try and tank every year if that was the end result. Was, I have to go play in the Thunderdome now? Gee, I guess I'll just put like everyone on my bench, and maybe like a few on the IR. It's all coming down to this championship game, huh? Damn, I didn't change my roster that day. Sorry, bud.
You could be like me and take Aaron Rodgers in the 7th round, and then that wasn't the best actions, but yeah.
You can't predict that. That's all. That's it. You can't predict a torn ACL on the first drive of the first game.
Anywho,
yeah.
It's been fun, Zach, man. It really has, and I appreciate you again for coming on. Hopefully we meet up again along the way and have some chats. And as we see, I'm sure if things change, we're both going to be going through some rebranding ourselves along this trek. And
right, I wish for you the best, and I do hope we get to sit down and chat at some point. Maybe flip this bad boy around, because I mean, I would say if we're walking through merging waters, it'd be nice to get on the USFL podcast and XFL voice. So, I would say that is something I would love to have. So
anything you need, man, just let me know.
Keep your DMs open is what I'd like to tell you.
They are.
And by the way, if you want, I think here's a good suggestion. If you want more USFL side of it, I know James Larson will sit down for a chat with you.
I'm actually waiting on him right now.
I know he will. He loves jumping on these shows. So
he's been on here before. Yeah. He just didn't have time. He was busy right now this weekend. I tried to get him on this weekend, and he was busy. We were kind of waiting. I got you on, invited him to actually join us, but he's visiting family. He's not home. So as soon as he gets back, I'll get him on as well and get that USFL thought knowledge process rolling on here too. Because I mean, he is a great one, and I like him too because he's dual. I can talk to him about both. He doesn't really. I mean, he's got somewhat of a bias, but in terms of actually what's going on and players, great person to talk to. Great insight. Great personality as well. I mean, can't say anything bad about him.
I can speak to this from just being in person, us interacting. The drive this kid has, and I say this because he is definitely younger than me. But the drive this kid has is impeccable. Like a really razor focused person that is really passionate about what he is covering, and especially about the journalistic integrity of how he is covering it. So yeah, definitely someone, and this is for everyone in here too. Even if you for some reason haven't heard about James, I imagine most of you have now, but like if you haven't now, check out James Larson's coverage, especially on X. He's basically on at minimum on par with Mike Mitchell for a guy you want to have on your, like, almost on your notifications tab every day if you want to follow this stuff. So
I agree 100%. News breaks, I mean, and they're all interactive. It gives you enough information to, if you're not familiar with what he's presenting, he gives you what you need to understand it.
Exactly.
So very, very, very good resource for anything spring football, in my opinion. But hey, man, once again, I appreciate you. You're the man. I appreciate you coming on right after work. Heck, you got off work and you jumped right on here, and you've been on here for 2 hours and 30 minutes.
You're damn right. I got into my door, and that was it. I came straight to the computer, got set up, and I'm here. And now I'm gonna go and find some grub to eat and probably have a nice nap. Football tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Bears. Hopefully, I hope to God they're not a mess like they were this week. But
no comment.
This is a great distraction from my Bears fandom. I gotta say.
Oh, I bet it is, sir. I bet it is
absolutely the best.
Anyway, man, it's been fun. I really appreciate it. This has been one of my most favorite shows, I think. So thank you again.
That is flattering. Thank you.
It's always good to get people on when we're not. The conversation isn't forced. We're just talking. This is how I would talk to you in person about all these things.
This is how podcasts should be, by the way. Like,
exactly.
You should, if you want knowledge, but like you want to be able to talk. Robotic ones. It's hard to not be robotic. Yeah, it's a practice. You're doing good. Keep it up.
I appreciate that, sir.
Matt, I'm glad to have jumped on here.
Yep. We'll see you again, I know. And good luck in however things change, sir. We'll see you on the other side.
See you on the other side. We'll meet up. Hey, we'll meet up at the combined exit. Don't worry. I lost him going through the security checkpoint, but we'll see each other on the opposite.
Some point. Take it easy, Zach, man. Appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you. Oh, man. Appreciate that so much. I'll put all his notes and stuff at the bottom. Check him out. If you don't know who he is, I'm sure you will soon. The USFL podcast is pretty big amongst the USFL fans, and there's a reason why. So check that out. It's been a pleasure, guys. I'm tired. It's 12:39 here in Mississippi, and it's time for me to hit the hay. So I hope we gave you some stuff to think about and gave you some things that to consider that weren't biased, and it doesn't piss you off. My goal here wasn't to make anybody mad. I really just wanted to give people a resource to figure this out, and I hope we did that tonight. As always, appreciate XFL Board and the XFL for letting me cover the league. XFL Board, just post us on our site. I can do some documents and write some stuff and put them on there as well. I just haven't had enough time. But they're a good site to check out, xflboard.com. And then XFL, once again, thank you for letting me cover. Hopefully we'll be continuing the coverage next season, I guess, whatever we're looking at. We'll be here. The show itself, we're going to embrace the change. I'm not sure what it's going to include, and I'm not sure where we'll end up, but we're going to embrace the change. I found that this spring football and the fandom here, it doesn't just go with the XFL or USFL. There's many, many more things going on to talk about. There's recruits and athletes and coaches and player personnel, and there's so much that you can talk about and really understand that you don't see on the fan side. So that's really what my goal is here. I hope to continue coverage with everything like normal, but if not, something will come out of it that may be a little different. We'll see. But either way, appreciate you guys greatly. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. It's been a pleasure. And I hope to see you all the 26th for Ball Hawk 1. Till next time, guys. Have a good night.